Chapter 951, Final Examination. Oh, seeing Ji Hanfeng was also stunned. This brat, how did this happen? He actually came out of there this quickly. Li Mingcheng's expression looked like he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. This is indeed unusual. Ji Hanfeng looked at Li Mingcheng's reaction and said as if he was deep in thought, "Junior brother Mingcheng, you seem to be taking notice of this brat. Could the person that you mentioned earlier be him?" "MN, it was indeed him. This probably seems ridiculous to senior brother Hanfeng," Li Mingcheng answered with a shrug. "Ha ha ha ha," Ji Hanfeng actually laughed and said, "That is quite interesting. Did he upset you by trying to curry favor with you but instead flew into a rage out of embarrassment when he failed to do so?" "Senior brother Hanfeng probably wouldn't believe it even if I told you," Li Mingcheng smirked. "This brat was even more capable than we expected, but he was probably just relying on Mu Bingyun's influence. HMPH, never mind. He is, after all, just a useless buffoon. It is really not worth wasting senior brother Hanfeng's and my time talking about him. After the examination, if I am willing to, I can squash him dead whenever I want. You should still be cautious." Even though he said the word cautious, Ji Hanfeng's tone was filled with spite. After all, he was brought back from the lower realms by an Ice Phoenix Palace master. "Heh, senior brother Hanfeng made a funny joke." Li Mingcheng laughed coldly in disdain. "It is true that Mu Bingyun brought him here, but I don't think a dignified Ice Phoenix Palace master would specially defend trash with brain problems who hasn't even stepped into the divine way. The reason she brought back this trash, I'm guessing." Li Mingcheng instantly suppressed his voice to the lowest. "This brat has a pretty face that can seduce women. That Mu Bingyun knew that she does not have much time left to live, but she actually got over it and brought back a pretty boy to please her." "Ha ha 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 ha." Ji Hanfeng started laughing crazily. "Junior brother Mingcheng is indeed sharp. If Main Hall Master heard this, she would definitely be delighted, ha 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 ha. Heh, now I am actually extremely curious how he managed to place among the 1,000 people. Who cares?" Ji Hanfeng curled his lips and said, "There are no rules against using any profound artifacts or items during the second round of examination. There are countless ways to cheat. But so what even if he passed it? He came at the bottom, just see him as another toy." "Junior brother Mingcheng, the last round of examination coming up next is the main event, and you need to give it all you've got. After all, the Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet is a sacred medicine that even I, your senior brother, wouldn't be able to obtain even if I asked for it. If it was perfectly refined, not only can it increase one's profound strength greatly in a short amount of time, it can deeply refine one's blood and marrow, and it will be tremendously beneficial to you in the future when you cultivate the Ice Phoenix God Investiture Cannon. That is a matter of course." Li Mingcheng acted like he was determined to win, and he lowered his voice once again. "The reason my aunt delayed my examination until this year was because of this Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet. Based on this group of people, no one is qualified to take it away from me, on the other hand." Mu Sushin had his attention locked on Yun-Chi the moment he appeared and said softly while deep in thought, "Looks like he really isn't as simple as it looks on the surface." "Eh, Senior Sushin, what did you say?" Mu Xiaolan lifted her head and asked. "The Yun-Chi you brought here passed the second round of examination," Mu Sushin said. "Passing Freezing Snow Hall's second round of examination without the strength of the divine way, this seems to have never happened in the history of the Snow Song realm before." "Ah, did you say that Yun-Chi passed the examination?" Mu Xiaolan was stunned by what she heard, and she almost thought that there was something wrong with her ears. She unconsciously lifted her head, saw the Yun-Chi standing outside of the profound formation, and her jaw immediately dropped. It was also at this moment that the 1,000th profound practitioner who passed the examination got out of the profound formation as the last white light flickered. At that instant, the light from the examination profound formation completely dispersed, and about 9,000 silhouettes appeared in the formation. Most collapsed on the ground with pale faces. The snowstorm realm closing also meant that they failed this examination. They would have to wait at least 5 years to participate in the examination again. The second round of examination has ended. Congratulations to those who passed the examination for now. Ji Hanfeng walked forward and spoke without haste, then he looked towards those who were in the formation. "As for you all, HMPH, you can all leave now. Train more and come back in 5 years. After speaking, he reached his palms out, and another profound formation appeared at the same spot, sending all those who didn't pass the examination instantly out of the freezing snow hall. Yunqi, you actually passed the examination. Mu Xiaolan walked towards Yunqi as she stared at him with her face filled with surprise. You don't seem to be happy that I passed, Yunqi said unhappily. It doesn't matter if I'm happy or not. Mu Xiaolan approached Yunqi quickly and said cautiously, How exactly did you do it? Those who participated in this examination all have the strength of the divine way. Even the weakest one is a few dozen times or even a few hundred times stronger than you. How could you have passed? Did you use some kind of method to cheat? Yunqi pressed his forehead. MN, you probably guessed right. HMPH. I knew it. The simple Mu Xiaolan didn't catch what Yunqi really meant. Could Master have told you about the details of freezing Snow Hall's examination back in the profound sky continent, and give you some sort of profound stone that can travel through the snowstorm realm? HMPH, no wonder you were daring enough to participate in freezing Snow Hall's examination. Yes, you guessed it all right. Yunqi curled his mouth and said, A total of 1,000 people passed the second round of examination, and Yunqi was the only one completely out of place. Most everyone's eyes were focused on Yunqi. Some of them were confused, and some of them were whispering. Ji Hanfeng started speaking at this moment. To be able to pass the second round of examination, this proves your strength on some level, but don't celebrate too early, because you all have only crossed over a bar that's not too high and not too low. The third round of examination that is coming up is what really decides your destinies. Ji Hanfeng's words made the atmosphere condense all of a sudden, and the excitement on every one of the profound practitioners disappeared completely, a deep nervousness taking its place instead. Passing the second round of examination merely meant that they were slightly closer to freezing Snow Hall, but what happened next would really decided their fate. Whether they could enter the freezing Snow Hall or not would be two completely different destinies. 90% of those who passed the examination would be eliminated in the final examination. It was indeed extremely cruel. The final examination is called the Ice Profound Realm. Ji Hanfeng's eyes were cold and stern. This round of examination will be easier than the second round in comparison, because the thing it tests is the most important part of all of you, and that is your true strength. In the Ice Profound Realm, you all will be attacked by strong, profound beasts. The longer you all stay in there, the more profound beasts you all will encounter, and since the space is restricted, you can only fight. There is nowhere to run. As for how you can pass the Ice Profound Realm's examination, I believe you all already understand. Ji Hanfeng reached out his hand and said, It is to hang in there as long as possible. The last 100 people who leave Ice Profound Realm will pass the final examination and become my freezing Snow Hall's disciples. Furthermore, the person who can persevere the longest will receive the Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet. Heading the name of Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet from Ji Hanfeng's mouth, more than half of the profound practitioners still couldn't control themselves. Their watering mouths forced them to swallow. The examination in the snowstorm realm teleported your physical bodies to the actual snowstorm realm, and there were no limitations on any use of profound artifacts. So perhaps some people would use some type of teleportation profound stone to cheat. Oh no. It wouldn't be called cheating, because since there are no rules against it, it can also be said to be allowed. When Ji Hanfeng said these words, he deliberately gave Yunqi a glance. After all, the second round of testing was only to filter out the unnecessary people. Round 3 is what really determines the result. Even if some trash use some sort of item to pass the second examination, it is impossible for them to pass the final examination. They will also have wasted a precious, profound artifact that has the power to interfere with the snowstorm realm all for nothing. Tusk. Therefore, historically, our freezing Snow Hall does not even bother to ban these useless cheats. As for the final examination, no one should wish to seize the chance to cheat. Ji Hanfeng started laughing coldly, because what's entering the Ice Profound Realm isn't your physical bodies but your projection. Your strength and willpower will be completely projected. So you all can give up on the thought of using any outside items, including your weapons and contracted profound beasts. The only thing you can rely on will be your true power. In the Ice Profound Realm, once you have died, you will be teleported out immediately, and there will be no second chances. But don't you all worry, the only thing that dies in the Ice Profound Realm is your projection. No matter how brutally you die in there, you won't really die, there won't even be a scratch. But if any of you are afraid to die, you can yell, "Give up." Speak these 2 words and you will leave the Ice Profound Realm immediately. In other words, if you want to pass to the Ice Profound Realm, you want to do your best to die slower in there. Do you all understand? I understand. Li Mingcheng responded first with a light smile that was confident in winning. Senior brother Hanfeng, I am already ready and can start any time. I only hope that the profound beasts in the ice profound realm don't disappoint me too much. Very good. Ji Hanfeng nodded his head. He reached out his arm, and the third profound formation was activated at the same spot again. Only this time, it was letting out a dark blue profound light. Now, all of you who passed the second examination stand on the center of the profound formation. The final examination that will determine your destinies will start very soon. Xianxia basically understood what was going to happen in this third round of examination. But in the first day that he arrived in the Snow Song realm, he didn't find out about the details of the examination like the other examinees. The key point was that in the second examination, he could still determine what rank he was at based on the other examinees' auras. However, in this final examination, each person's projection would seem to get their own individual space. They could not see the existences of the other examinees. It would be impossible to interfere with each other, and so he wouldn't be able to determine what rank he held based on the time. If he held on in there for too long and accidentally got a rank near the front, it would definitely cause him trouble. But if he deliberately lost too much and fell out of the 100th ranking, he would not be able to enter freezing Snow Hall, and his idea of gaining face for Mu Bingyun would vanish like bubbles. Xianxia didn't immediately walk into the profound formation, and instead asked quietly, "Hey, if you want to pass the examination in the ice profound realm, how long would you usually have to hang on in there?" "How would I know? I entered Ice Phoenix Palace directly, so I never participated in freezing Snow Hall's examination," Mu Xiaolan said proudly, then rolled her eyes at him. "Why did you ask this? You heard just now everyone knew that you must have cheated in the Snowstorm realm, and in the Ice Profound realm it is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely impossible to cheat." "I'm just asking," Xianxia mumbled softly. This little girl seriously didn't know anything aside from knowing how to annoy people. Based on the past results, to pass the examination in the Ice Profound realm, 15 minutes is the basic baseline, Mu Sushan, who was next to Mu Xiaolan, suddenly said. "And those impressive geniuses could probably persist for close to 30 minutes. I wish you good luck." Xianxia turned his head to look at Mu Sushan and nodded in slight surprise. "Thank you, Senior, for your pointers." After speaking, he turned around and headed toward the profound formation. At the same time, the corner of Mu Sushan's mouth moved slightly, and his eyes flashed with an unusual mysteriousness. Chapter 952, Winterfrost Direwolf, 15 minutes. "Is it usually that long?" Mu Xiaolan said quietly to herself. Even though she had never participated in freezing Snow Hall's examination, she knew some things about it after all these years in Divine Ice Phoenix sect. "This is not important," Mu Sushan said smilingly. "Maybe you should think about why he asked you that question specifically just now." Mu Xiaolan's face was filled with confusion. "The examination in the Snowstorm realm is extremely energy-consuming," Mu Sushan said slowly. "Most of the profound practitioners, whether they passed or not, were all out of breath after the Snowstorm realm closed. However, not only did Xianxia make it within the 1,000 people at only Sovereign Profound Realm, his expression was very calm and casual, and he did not seem to be catching his breath at all, he. This young fellow palace master Bingyun brought back from the lower realm is indeed not as simple as he looks. Perhaps there will be some kind of surprise later." Mu Xiaolan was even more confused. Standing within the profound formation, Xianxia immediately saw the person named Feng Mo among the crowd. Not only did he pass the second round of examination, he seemed to have come in at the top of the ranking. Feeling someone watching him, Feng Mo also lifted his head and looked towards him, but the expression revealed in his eyes was rather strange. "The final examination, the Ice Profound Realm, don't die too quickly." As soon as Ji Hanfeng finished speaking, a blue light rose from the profound formation up in the sky and completely covered all the examinees within the formation. The world around Xianxia suddenly became ice blue. Following that, he felt a change in the world around him, and the aura of all the people around him disappeared in an instant. When the light surrounding him suddenly dispersed, a dimension built with ice crystals appeared before his eyes. The world of the Ice Profound Realm, this dimension was independent and sealed. It was especially narrow and small. The length, width, and height were less than 300 meters, and one could see towards the end and the edge of it in a single glance. This world was sealed with an ice layer formed by using an ice-profound energy that was at an extremely high plane, and it reflected a cold light that stung one's soul. Just when Xianxia got a good look at the world he was in, a freezing light flashed in front of him, and the silhouette of a beast that was about 3 meters tall appeared quickly. Its entire body was snowy white, with claws that were like frozen blades and eyes that were blood red. It was an ice wolf releasing its bloodthirsty aura. Xianxia was familiar with ice wolves because they could be seen everywhere in snow region of extreme ice. However, even if all the ice wolves in snow region of extreme ice added together, they could not be compared to a single hair of the one in front of him. The aura that it released was clearly scarier than Feng Zuer and the little demon empress. This was a terrifying, profound beast with the strength of the divine way. Its strength could be compared to a profound practitioner with the strength of early-stage divine origin realm. The ice wolf instantly let loose a bloody roar when it appeared and immediately rushed toward him. Xianxia was a projection, and the ice wolf was also a projection. The ice wolf didn't have any emotions, and the only goal of its existence was to do everything it could to tear apart the creature in front of it without giving it any chance to breathe. Purgatory? Xianxia definitely could not go head-to-head against a profound beast with the strength of the divine way in his normal state. He instantly opened his evil god's gates, and the profound strength in his body instantly rose as a result. But he still didn't dare to take the attack directly. Instead, he quickly teleported using Star God's broken shadow. SSSSS. The ice wolf missed, and right when its front claws touched the ground, it turned around lightning quick and immediately charged towards Xianxia again. At the same time, the temperature in the ice-profound realm suddenly fell as countless ice spikes infested the void sky and shot towards Xianxia with an incredibly sharp noise. At. The speed of the ice wolf surprised Xianxia. He ducked and teleported again against the ground. He dodged below the ice wolf and instantly switched positions with it, but in this narrow space, the ice spikes were already everywhere. Xianxia roared deeply, the profound energy in his body erupting forth. It burst all the ice spikes that were shooting towards him, but the instant he exhausted his energy, a few dozen ice spikes got through the remaining waves of his power and ruthlessly stung his body. Bang, 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 bang. With the strength of Xianxia's body, it was extremely hard for him to be injured. However, the ice spikes that were hitting him at the moment had the power of divine way, much stronger than the plane of those in the profound sky continent. His chest and back instantly spilled blood, and the extreme pain made Xianxia knit his brows. He punched his own chest, and the spikes that punctured his body were all shaken out, turning into ice powder. What a terrifying, profound beast! It was, after all, a profound beast from the god realm. The ice wolf had already turned around and attacked again after it missed a second time. Its snowy white body charged towards him, and before it even got close, its claws were already out. An ice blade that was even larger than its body condensed, appeared, and horizontally slashed towards Xianxia. Senior Mu Sushin, this is the final round of examination. What exactly is in the ice profound realm? Mu Xiaolan asked Mu Sushin. Oh, you just started worrying about that kid, Mu Sushin asked, a faint smile on his face. I can't be bothered to worry about him, Mu Xiaolan said as she turned her nose up. I was just curious. It's the Winterfrost direwolf, Mu Sushin answered. Winterfrost direwolf, the profound beast at the first level of the divine origin realm? Mu Xiaolan gasped softly. That's right, and there will be more than one. Mu Sushin explained. After the examinee enters the ice profound realm, they will have Tophace one Winterfrost direwolf. After that, more Winterfrost direwolves will appear at regular intervals, but it won't be a single one that appears. It will be 2, 3, 4, an increasing number every time. Most of those who are participating the freezing snow hall's examination are at the initial stage of divine origin realm. The outstanding examinees who could pass the second round of examination can easily handle one single Winterfrost direwolf, but it will be a little difficult to handle 2 at the same time. Handling 3 will put them in danger of dying, and it is even more difficult to face 4 at the same time. Each Winterfrost direwolf will appear at a specific time. For example, 3 Winterfrost direwolves will appear at the 3rd wave, but if one is not able to kill all 3 before the 4th wave of Winterfrost direwolves appears, then after the 4th wave, the examinee will have to face 7 at the same time. The result would of course be a certain death. Winterfrost direwolves, even though their bodies are weaker, Their offensive ability is almost the strongest among the profound beasts of the same level, and they are also naturally aggressive. Yunqi he, Xiaolan started stuttering while she talked. He will definitely be torn into pieces immediately. Ah! Just as Xiaolan finished talking, there was a scream. A silhouette flew out from within the profound formation and landed hardly on the ground. The first profound practitioner who died in the ice profound realm had been ejected. HMPH garbage. Ji Hanfeng, who was supervising the examination, snorted in disdain. Ah, Yunqi! Xiaolan gasped subconsciously and hurriedly rushed towards the silhouette. The only result for Yunqi, whose profound strength was only at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm, would be to be torn apart in front of the brutal, terrifying Winterfrost direwolf. The first one to die under the claws of Winterfrost direwolf could only be him. But before she even got close, she stopped where she was with her icy eyes widened, because the person who got thrown out to the ground was not Yunqi. Ji Hanfeng, who was on the other side, also knitted his brows. The first examinee that was kicked out of the profound formation was limp on the ground. His face was pale and couldn't recover from the fear of his death at the moment, because in the ice profound realm he clearly saw himself get ripped into pieces by a Winterfrost direwolf. Bang! The ice blade destroyed Yunqi's phantom, slashed onto the ice wall behind and was stuck, nailed there. The ice wolf's scary attacks were all dodged by Yunqi using Star God's broken shadow. However, he knew clearly in his mind that with the ice wolf's horrifying speed and the narrowness of the space, it was definitely not a smart decision for him to deal with it like this. He had to go on offensive. But this time, the ice wolf did not charge forward and instead opened its huge mouth and let out a gush of cold energy. A thick icy fog instantly spread throughout the ice profound realm. The temperature in this space was already freezing, but now it was decreasing at an alarming rate. Cold energy? Yunqi's eyes lit up, and he actually faced the icy fog head-on and charged towards the ice wolf at lightning speed. Even a monarch would be frozen into an ice sculpture from touching the cold energy produced by an ice wolf. As the freezing fog spread, every existence in the ice profound realm were all sealed in ice. But this absolutely would not affect Yunqi. Its power, sharp claws, ice spikes, ice blades. Yunqi didn't dare to forcefully take any of them head-on. But using cold energy to attack Yunqi was an absolutely foolish move. Releasing cold energy made the ice wolf reveal its weak point. Yunqi rushed directly to its side, condensed profound energy, and struck its body with a punch. Ji Hanfeng said himself that no one would be able to use weapons in the ice profound realm, but hunger might be an exception, because she was technically not a weapon, but a unique existence connected to his soul and willpower. However, he did not attempt to summon hunger, because he did not think it was worth the trouble to cheat. The ice wolf shrieked and flew out under Yunqi's strike, fiercely smashing against the icy wall. The shock made the entire space vibrate slightly. Yunqi looked at his fist that had just landed on the ice wolf, and a flash of shock appeared in his eyes, because he clearly felt the bones of the ice wolf cracking in that punch just now. The attack of the ice wolf was extremely terrifying, and it made him felt like he was going to suffocate every single time, but its body didn't seem to be very tough. The ice wolf stood up, but its body was already wobbling slightly, proving that the bone cracking that Yunqi felt was not an illusion. The expression in Yunqi's eyes turned from cautious to dangerous, and he rushed towards the ice wolf himself. Ah-eh-oh! The injured direwolf became increasingly more aggressive, and a murderous, bloodthirsty light was released from its eyes. It howled in anger, leaped about 30 meters, and charged towards Yunqi with a frantic ice-cold current of air. More than half of the ice profound realm was instantly drawn into the icy wind storm. Yunqi also leaped straight up to it. When he got close, his figure swayed and appeared above the ice wolf like a ghost. Using his hand as a sword, he struck downward. Falling moon-sinking star! Bang! Crack! With a loud sound, Yunqi smashed his palm down with all of his power onto the back of the ice wolf. What followed after was a crisp, ear-splitting cracking sound. Yunqi's physical strength was incredible. Under this strike, the spine of the ice wolf was broken into several pieces. It howled in pain as it fell to the ground. After it rolled several times, it lay on the ground like a lump of mud and wasn't able to stand up anymore. Not long after, it slowly disappeared in a ball of blue light. Yunqi landed slowly, took a small breath, and flicked his palm that was a little sore. He said in a low voice, "So it was merely this. But this is just the beginning." To be able to pass, I have to at least hang on for more than 15 minutes. It will definitely become harder later on, Xianxia said to himself. I better conserve my strength. In the profound sky continent, as Xuanyuan Wenshan's divine soul perished, there was no one else with the strength of the divine way. Therefore, even though Xianxia's strength had increased at a tremendous speed, he couldn't find anyone to compare his strength to. Including when he was fighting against Xuanyuan Wenshan, he didn't know what plane his strength was on. After all, he didn't know about the existence of the 7 divine profound realms back then. So it wasn't that the Winterfrost direwolf was merely this, but that he didn't know he had already reached a realm far beyond his expectations. Chapter 953. Impossible result within the ice profound realm. Xianxia, who had eliminated the first Winterfrost direwolf, did not relax in the slightest after having killed it. Instead, he waited for another enemy to appear. But after a good while, his surroundings were still silent. Right when he began to have doubts, a dangerous aura finally appeared once more. This time, 2 streaks of blue light appeared before him at the same time, projecting the silhouettes of 2 Winterfrost direwolves. 2. He was slightly stunned, but his nerves and body had already reacted at the very first instant, thunderously dashing at the Winterfrost direwolf up ahead. Just as it appeared, before it even had time to see its surroundings, the Winterfrost direwolf had been punched in the head by Xianxia amidst a violent explosion of golden crow flames. Ayo! The Winterfrost direwolf let out a wretched cry and was flung away, its entire body covered in flames. At the same time, a dangerous aura suddenly closed in from Xianxia's rear. Not having enough time to turn around, Xianxia instead rolled on the ground, sliding over lightning quick. When the Winterfrost direwolf behind him pounced on him, his hand ferociously shot upward with a chop. Crack. Compared to their dangerous, bloodthirsty aura, these Winterfrost direwolves were a bit weak. Upon receiving Xianxia's chop, the second Winterfrost direwolf's right hind leg was immediately snapped apart and fell to the ground amidst its miserable shrieking. Xianxia's body quickly came to a stop before throwing himself forward. Just as he was about to take that chance to deal a heavy blow to its vitals, an icy wind attack suddenly blew over. The first Winterfrost direwolf that he had blasted away using golden crow flames was filled with burn injuries and a savage excitement. It howled as it pounced at Xianxia's back. Xianxia's brows sunk. His hand posture immediately changed. He grabbed the broken hind leg of the Winterfrost direwolf before him and turned around, smashing it behind him. Bang! Even though Xianxia executed a simple swing, it had several hundred kilograms worth of power. The 2 Winterfrost direwolves heavily collided, bringing the bloom of 2 bloody flowers. Following the miserable howl of the 2 Winterfrost direwolves as they flew away, a terrifying rain of blood began to fall in the ice-profound realm. Xianxia stretched out both of his hands. At the same time, the 2 Winterfrost direwolves landed on the ground. Several blasts of golden crow flames were released in succession. Boom, 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 boom. The continuous flame explosions, which contained the golden crow's flame power, momentarily dispersed the Winterfrost direwolf's cold energy. Once he stopped his assault, the 2 Winterfrost direwolves had already stopped their shrieks and quickly dissipated within the flames. Phew, it's pretty easy. Xianxia let out a breath of air. Could it be that there are only these kinds of ice wolves in the ice profound realm? Or will stronger profound beasts appear? Xianxia couldn't help wondering. After eliminating those 2 Winterfrost direwolves as soon as they appeared, he had to wait quite a while yet again before a dangerous aura approached. This time, 3 streaks of blue light flashed at the same time. What appeared were 3 Winterfrost direwolves with bloodthirsty auras. 3. Upon seeing the 3 Winterfrost direwolves appear at the same exact time, not only did Xianxia not get nervous, his expression had even relaxed somewhat. The first wave had 1, the second wave had 2, and the third wave had 3, and they all appeared at around the same time. This meant that this test most likely spawned Winterfrost direwolves at set intervals, and the next wave would have 1 more Winterfrost direwolf. He also had a rough understanding of a Winterfrost direwolf's strength and threat. Added to the fact that they appeared in the same exact intervals, this was enough for Xianxia to believe that being able to hold on for 15 minutes here wasn't that hard of a task. The test here couldn't even be said in the same breath as the trial in the Dragon God's secret realm, where the enemies doubled every wave. 3 sinister, bone-chilling, violent auras firmly locked onto Xianxia. Right when all 3 Winterfrost direwolves were about to attack, a huge blaze had already erupted from Xianxia's body. Beneath the firelight, the winterfrost direwolf's bloody pupils contracted as they suddenly fell back, even letting out sinister hissing sounds. Xianxia had just discovered that winterfrost direwolves feared fire. As ice-type profound beasts, being afraid of fire couldn't be any more ordinary. Fire and ice originally suppressed one another, but for Xianxia, it had clearly become a one-sided restraint. While the winterfrost direwolves were backing away, Xianxia made the first move, and violent firelight once more exploded within the ice-profound realm. Bang! The examination profound formation echoed once more, and the second profound practitioner was ejected. Xiaolan subconsciously went forward, but quickly noticed that it was still not Xianxia. As time passed, more and more examinees died within the ice-profound realm and were immediately ejected. The speed in which the examinees were ejected became even quicker the later it was. There were some times where a dozen or so people were ejected within several breaths of time. The states in which they were ejected from the ice-profound realm were all especially similar. Their faces were all deathly white, and they all possessed frightened expressions and sweated due to debility. However, the moment they woke up from within death's shadow, they realized that they hadn't actually been torn apart. Not even a scar or bruise was on their bodies, but what greeted them was another cruel fact. Hurry up and leave using that profound formation, losers. Stop taking up the space here, Ji Hanfeng said rather coldly with narrowed eyes. Our Ice Phoenix Divine Sect never takes pity on losers, nor will we waste any more attention on them. Hurry up and leave. I don't have the patience to say it a second time. Being the first 900 profound practitioners to die in the ice profound realm meant that they had failed the final test. This also meant that their dreams of joining freezing snow hall had become an illusion. The faces of the losers turned ashen, but none dared to disobey Ji Hanfeng's order as they all left dragging heavy footsteps. Right in this cruel and competitive god realm, no one would take pity on trash or losers, nor would anyone bother to look at them. Weird, how come that brat named Xianxia isn't out yet? Ji Hanfeng muttered in confusion. It's not him again? Ah, so strange, more than 600 people have come out already. Why hasn't he come out yet? More and more people were being ejected out of the ice profound realm, yet Xianxia, the one who should have been the first one to fail due to his profound strength being the weakest, still had not appeared. The snowstorm realm test could be cheated through, but the ice profound realm was a projection. It was a genuine strength assessment, which was impossible to be cheated on in any shape or form. It was fundamentally impossible to withstand a single blow from a winterfrost direwolf with profound strength at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm, so how could he possibly persevere until now? Ji Hanfeng was indefinitely bewildered. Xiaolan was stupefied, and the expression of Sushan, who had been spectating through the entire process, continuously fluctuated. As the final exam progressed, more and more examinees were being ejected from the ice profound realm. In the end, following the sound of the profound formation, the 900th examinee was ejected out amidst a terrible scream. Clang, the profound formation's light suddenly began to violently fluctuate at this time, as its deep blue light became a luminous white. Bang! The 900th and first examinee was ejected out of the profound formation, but the difference was that this examinee's body was surrounded by a layer of white light, its color the same as the profound formation. This white light was proof that he had successfully passed the ice profound realm trial, which also meant that he had passed Freezing Snow Hall's final examination and was qualified to become a disciple of Freezing Snow Hall. When he saw the white light on his body, that profound practitioner instantly forgot the terror of his death. In his excitement, he shook his arms and shouted wildly. After him, more and more examinees were consecutively ejected. Every one of them wore the white light, which proved that they had successively passed the exam on their bodies. At this moment, those who were still in the ice profound realm had all passed the exam. The final competition was now seeing who was able to obtain the title of number 1 and obtain the Jade-Fallen Ice Soul Pellet, which was like a sacred treasure in their eyes. But Xiaolan still did not see Xianxia. What's going on here? Ji Hanfeng paced back and forth, his brows pressed together. The first examinee to get ejected not being Xianxia was already enough to shock him into bewilderment. However, every examinee being ejected afterwards gave him even more shocks, one after the other. At this moment, he was already doubting whether there was an issue with his eyes or his memory. Could it be that the brat didn't enter the profound formation earlier and use some kind of method to secretly slip away? Ji Hanfeng inwardly pondered. He couldn't find any other possible explanation aside from this one. Senior Sushin, did you see if Xianxia really went inside the trial's profound formation? Xiaolan had almost the same exact thoughts as Ji Hanfeng. He couldn't have used some kind of strange, spatial, profound artifact to secretly leave before the start of the exam, could he? Otherwise, why hasn't he come out yet? Even if she were to be beaten to death, she wouldn't believe that someone at the 5th level of the Sovereign Profound Realm could stay in the Ice Profound Realm for that long. Though Mu Bingyun praised him many times, saying that he was a genius, he was still only at the Sovereign Profound Realm. She had also fought with Xianxia once in the snow region of extreme ice. When they first met, a casual slap from her had sent Xianxia flying. Mu Sushin did not directly reply. He held his chin with his hand and said with obvious surprise, "It seems like your master has brought back a considerably gifted fellow, Ho-Ho. It's been many years since I've had such a feeling of expectation." Ah, Mu Xiaolan didn't get him at all. Bang, bang, bang. While they were talking, several more examinees shot out. As time progressed, the difficulty of the Ice Profound Realm trial would increase. At this moment, examinees would be ejected once every few breaths. 80, 90, 95, 98. When the 98th person was ejected with white light swirling around his body, the profound formation finally quieted. A long time passed and no other examinee had been ejected. And with the number 98, this obviously meant that there were still 2 people inside the Ice Profound Realm. Li Mingcheng had not come out, which meant that one of them was Li Mingcheng. This was not unexpected. But who could the other person be? A full 100 breaths had passed since the previous examinee had been ejected, but the profound formation still showed no movements. As expected of Li Mingcheng, to actually persevere so long without dying, quietly exclaimed a profound practitioner who had passed the exam. They had all just recently experienced the terror of the Ice Profound Realm trial. Each Winterfrost direwolf was a nightmarish existence. It's expected that Li Mingcheng is able to last this long. After all, he definitely has that kind of strength. But who is the other person? To actually persevere without coming out until now, I don't know. There didn't seem to anyone who was on par with Li Mingcheng in the Snowstorm Realm trial. Could they have been hiding their strength? HMPH, there's no need for you to randomly guess. Ji Hanfeng snorted coldly. At this point, he completely believed his own guess and said indifferently, "At the moment, there is only one person in the Ice Profound Realm, not 2. Because a certain trash was scared he would fail too miserably, so before the Ice Profound Realm even started, he used some kind of spatial artifact to escape. He probably used the same thing he used to cheat through the Snowstorm Realm." Ji Hanfeng's words immediately allowed the group of examinees to see the light. Chapter 954. It's hard to die in the Ice Profound Realm. Xianxia was still in a harsh battle against the Winterfrost direwolf, without knowing that the examination was already approaching the end. After fighting 11 waves of Winterfrost direwolves, Xianxia was already covered in wounds and blood, but the overflowing aura in his body didn't seem to decrease at all. It was even more berserk than before. Even his eyes revealed a light that was even more violent than the Winterfrost direwolves. "Die, red purgatory lotus!" Boom! The golden crow flames exploded crazily in the narrow space, and the Winterfrost direwolves that were charging towards him all shrieked and was swallowed by the exploding fire lotus. A large half of them directly burnt into pieces. SSS in the sea of fire that spread out, a dangerous aura suddenly approached, and an undead Winterfrost direwolf jumped out from the sea of fire with flames all over his body. The wolf claws that were tainted with blood clawed towards Xianxia with a terrifying power and hatred. SSSS. The afterimage was ripped apart in an instant. Xianxia reached out his palms after teleporting and condensed the air into ice. An ice cone almost 2 meters long, merciless, stabbed directly through the flame-covered body of an Winterfrost direwolf. The Winterfrost direwolf was already severely wounded from the burning, and upon being stabbed through by the ice cone, it shrieked and disappeared in a light before it even landed on the ground. At this point, the 11th wave, an entire group of 11 Winterfrost direwolves was killed by Xianxia. Phew! Xianxia took a deep, long breath. There were wounds on his body everywhere, but if one looked closely, one would notice that even though these wounds looked frightening, none of them were deep enough to reach bone. His energy consumption was extremely small because he hadn't used the Heaven-Smiting Sword. Up to now, he was only slightly short of breath. Roughly 15 minutes should have passed by now, Xianxia said to himself. while he was fighting against the winter frost direwolves. He had also been estimating the time in his mind, because Mu Sushan told him that 15 minutes was roughly the time he had to stay alive for him to barely make it through the final examination. But Yuanqi knitted his brows and mumbled, "Was that person called Mu Sushan trying to trick me? Lasting for 15 minutes seems a bit too easy. This kind of challenge shouldn't be too hard for those 1,000-strong Divine Way practitioners who made their way through the snowstorm realm. It shouldn't be too difficult to last 15 minutes even for the weakest person, right?" Aside from the pressure Yuanqi felt when he first faced the Winterfrost direwolves, after he observed the way they attacked and their weaknesses, the 10 waves that followed were all relatively easy for him and didn't consume much of his energy. And he completely believed that if he used the heaven-smiting sword, not to mention getting wounded, even if the Winterfrost direwolves all attacked him at once, they wouldn't be able to get within 10 steps of him. The people taking this final examination with him all had the power of the Divine Way. Facing those Winterfrost direwolves that had great strength and speed but had relatively fragile bodies, even if they faced multiple direwolves at the same time, it shouldn't be too difficult. Just to be safe, should I? Just as Yuanqi was thinking and hesitating, a blue light flashed around him. The 12th wave of Winterfrost direwolves appeared in the blue light. The 12 of them appeared at the same time at the 12th wave. 12 violent auras instantly locked onto Yuanqi, but he still didn't react immediately, because he was still hesitating on whether to end it now or continue a wave or two more in the end. He chose the latter. That Mu Sushan was someone who seemed to have integrity and dignity, and we are strangers, so there was no reason to lie to me intentionally. The reason I am able to handle this with ease is probably connected to my tolerance to cold and my star god's broken shadow. It is also possible that I still underestimated my current level of strength. Thinking of this, Yuanqi stood still without moving and let the 12 Winterfrost direwolves charge towards him. Aau! SSS, ha! Bang! The 12 Winterfrost direwolves all attacked crazily, and an incredibly horrifying, disastrous windstorm appeared in the space of the ice-profound realm. Several bloody wounds and dozens of claw marks appeared instantly on Yuanqi's body. But that was all. If it was some other profound practitioners, they would have been directly torn apart, frozen, or turned into bloody pieces under this type of condition. Yuanqi's body was extremely tough with the existence of the dragon god marrow. Even in his sleep, his dragon god's bloodline was becoming thicker by the second. As of now, not even he knew how strong his dragon god's bloodline had become. Back then, when he was battling fiercely with Xuanyuan Wenchen, he was able to take Xuanyuan Wenchen's strongest, absolute sword of no return, directly without getting pierced through while his body was under restraint, not to mention the attack of these Winterfrost direwolves. The 12 Winterfrost direwolves clawed and bit him, wounded everywhere on his body, but it wasn't enough to kill Yuanqi. Instead, it made him grit his teeth in pain and roar, "You all should just go die." Yellow Springs ashes. Boom. In a howl, the most extreme golden crow flames exploded mercilessly, and instantly turned the freezing cold ice profound realm into a golden burning hell of flames. In the horrifying destructive flames, the Winterfrost direwolves had nowhere to escape, didn't even have a chance to howl, and they were all burned to ashes. After the flames dispersed, the ice profound realm was no longer freezing. Instead, every corner was scorching with a terrifying heat. As for the Winterfrost direwolves, all of them disappeared without a trace, not even a hair was left. That should be it. SSS took all of this for nothing. Looking at his bloody arms, Yuanqi gritted his teeth in pain. Then he lifted his head and yelled, "I give up." Ji Hanfeng said that if one didn't dare to face death during the examination, one could yell out, "I give up," to end the examination directly. Except he didn't do it because he was afraid of death. A white light fell from the void sky and cast on him as he said those words. As the white light flickered, he disappeared from the ice-profound realm, and the ice-profound realm that he was just in collapsed, vanishing into nothingness. The ice-profound realm was not an independent space built by the freezing snow hall. It was only a temporary space created by the power of the profound formation one by one. Bang! A light flashed from the profound examination with everyone waiting, and a silhouette finally flew out and landed on the ground in a white light. "It's Li Mingcheng. Li Mingcheng finally came out." Impressive. Li Mingcheng is indeed impressive. He actually stayed alive for 100 breaths of time longer than the second place. So amazing. That is, of course, He grew up in the Ice Phoenix realm, and he is the nephew of the main hall master of Freezing Snow Hall. We cannot compare to him at all. If we were in another group, we could probably still try to compete for the Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet, but we were in the same group as Li Mingcheng. That's so unlucky. One of the profound practitioners who ranked at the top of the list sighed and said. The white light on Li Mingcheng disappeared. He was sitting on the ground with his face pale while catching big breaths. It was very normal after experiencing being sieged by the Winterfrost direwolves, but he recovered and stood back up very quickly. At this moment, Ji Hanfeng walked towards him while laughing loudly. Ha 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 ha, junior brother Mingcheng, you are indeed the one who was given high expectations by the main hall master. You actually remained in the Ice Profound realm for such a long period of time. That is very impressive. Ji Hanfeng's voice close to Li Mingcheng's ears quickly turned his face red. The envy, admiration, amazement, and shame around him made him feel like he was floating. He promptly answered in a humble tone, Not at all, compared to senior brother, I am still miles behind. Junior brother Mingcheng, I cannot live up to those words. Ji Hanfeng smiled and said, I only made it past the 8th wave of Winterfrost direwolves in the Ice Profound realm back then, and I already thought that was impressive. Based on junior brother's time, you should have made it past at least 10 waves. I am far from having your qualifications. From this, within 10 years, junior brother Mingcheng's cultivation will surpass mine. When the time comes, I will have to rely on junior brother Mingcheng in Freezing Snow Hall. Before this, Ji Hanfeng was just discreetly fawning over him. But now that he witnessed how shockingly well Li Mingcheng did, he was already praising him in front of everyone without hiding it. Even though Li Mingcheng was still not strong enough compared to him, with his qualification and identity, he would definitely be an enormous tree in the Freezing Snow Hall. As an intelligent person, of course Ji Hanfeng would choose to pick the most suitable moment to grab on tight. Ahaha, what is senior brother Hanfeng talking about? You are flattering me. Li Mingcheng acted as if he was afraid, but he couldn't hide the pride and arrogance that were deep within his eyes. He then couldn't wait and said softly, Senior brother Hanfeng, the Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet. He, is there someone else who could have taken it? Ji Hanfeng shot him a look in response, and then turned around to sweep his eyes across the profound practitioners that passed the final examination, already standing in a tidy formation. He said loudly announced, Very good, the examinations for our group are all completed at this point. First, let's congratulate all the junior brothers and sisters. After going through 3 rounds of examination, you have all qualified to become disciples of Freezing Snow Hall. After receiving the Ice Phoenix engraved jade that will belong to you later, you will all officially be our Freezing Snow Hall's disciples. I wish you all to achieve great things from now on, make our ancestors proud. And, as the first place of the examination this time, as well as the most talented new disciple among our group, Ji Hanfeng raised his palms and slowly picked up the Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet. Everyone's eyes were attracted beneath the dreamy blue light and stuck on it like a magnet. All of their eyes revealed a deep desire and envy, especially Li Mingcheng. His limbs shook and his eyes brightened up in excitement. He was itching to go up there and hold the sacred pill to his chest immediately. Ji Hanfeng's eyes focused on Li Mingcheng at this moment. This Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet naturally belongs to... Wait. Before Ji Hanfeng finished speaking, he was interrupted by a calm voice. Ji Hanfeng's face darkened immediately, but he immediately realized that the voice that interrupted him came from Mu Sushan, who had been observing at the side this whole time. His face calmed down right away as he turned around and lowered his head. He said respectfully, General Manager Sushan, is there something that you would like to enlighten this disciple on? Mu Sushan reached out his hand and pointed at the examination's profound formation. Did you not notice that the profound light from the profound formation has yet to disappear? Ji Hanfeng looked at the examination profound formation with confusion. He was slightly stunned, and then he suddenly reacted. The expression in his face changed abruptly as he stuttered, What is going on? All of the profound practitioners were all still looking at the profound formation, which had bright white light shooting toward the sky with confusion. Li Mingcheng was also stunned in place. Ji Hanfeng, this is not the first time you've hosted an examination. You should know very well that this profound formation exists for the examination. After the examination is completed, the profound light will naturally disappear. However, it is still here operating, proving that the examination has not truly ended. There is still one more examinee in the Ice Profound realm. This disciple, of course, understands this. But this shouldn't have happened. This disciple has counted already. Those 900 people who were eliminated had already all left. After Li Mingcheng completed the examination, all of the 99 people who passed the examination are all here. Not one more and not one less. And with Yun Qi, who escaped before the examination even started. Ji Hanfeng suddenly choked on his words and his pupils expanded slightly. Could it be? Chapter 955, Crisis. Before Ji Hanfeng had even finished his sentence, the profound formation suddenly flashed with a profound light. A ball of white light separated itself from the profound formation and slowly fell. After it touched the ground, the white light disappeared, before Yun Qi's silhouette emerged. The other profound practitioners had either been ejected from the profound formation or ruthlessly thrown out, battered and miserable looking. However, Yun Qi had been gently sent out and landed smoothly. This was because the others had been ejected by the profound formation after dying, and Yun Qi had given up while still alive. The first thing Yun Qi sensed was that his body didn't seem to hurt or have sustained any injuries. In fact, he didn't feel like he had used up any profound energy at all. However, he immediately sensed that the surrounding atmosphere didn't seem quite right and quickly opened his eyes to survey the area. Xiaolan still remained a distance in front of him, yet her mouth was wide open. Sushen, who stood beside her, had an extremely odd look in his eyes. Beside him, a group of profound practitioners were neatly arranged in order with Ji Hanfeng standing before them. At the same time he saw Ji Hanfeng, he also immediately saw Li Mingcheng, who stood at the very front of the group. And among these people, each and every one of them were wide-eyed stupefied, as though they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Yun Qi had not died out of the ice-profound realm, so his mental state was not in disorder. After his instant of being stunned, the surrounding situation, the atmosphere, as well as the expression on everyone's faces immediately caused him to realize that something had happened. What happened? Was there a problem with the exam? There shouldn't be. Then the only thing possible is I'm the last F-seeking person that came out. Clang. Ripples of profound energy were produced as an immense sound rang from the back. The light of the profound formation instantly retracted, and in just a short moment, the entire profound formation disappeared. The space within the boundary of the profound formation was completely empty, without a single trace of a human figure. The final exam of freezing snow hall had truly ended at this very moment. And the number one of this final exam, in other words, the last person who left the ice-profound realm, was actually Yun Qi. Looking at Yun Qi, who appeared from within the white light and the disappearance of the profound formation, everyone present felt as if their brains had crashed. Even after staring for a long while, they were still unable to believe their own eyes at all. Li Mingcheng's result was extremely extraordinary. If he had obtained number one, no one would have felt it was unexpected. However, Yun Qi's profound strength was clearly just at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm. Putting aside entering the divine way, even if he was in the sovereign profound realm, he was only at the middle stage of it. Furthermore, he was even a profound practitioner who came from the lower realm and was far weaker than profound practitioners of God realm of the same level. With his profound strength and birth, forget about freezing snow hall, entering the Snowfall Palace would be extremely difficult as well. Him being able to participate in the exams of freezing snow hall was just a special permission given by the main hall master as a form of ridicule and even a little embarrassment. Him accepting her proposal was just a joke in everyone's eyes. And it was exactly this joke who had actually surpassed Li Mingcheng in the final exam and had surpassed every single one of them. Yun Qi, why? Xiaolan was unable to adjust her state of mind from this huge sense of disparity. You're actually number one? Ah, Yun Qi looked at Sushen. From the present situation, how could he fail to understand that he was actually tricked by this general manager of freezing snow hall? Furthermore, that rather meaningful look carried by Sushen was clearly a huge confession. In the ice-profound realm, he had suspected if 15 minutes was a little short. But never did he expect that it was actually too long. It seemed like Sushen had realized something from Yun Qi's various behaviors and the results of the snowstorm realm exam and thus tricked him a little. Not to mention, it was done without a trace. Even with Yun Qi's shrewdness, he was unable to sense anything strange. As someone who could hold a high status even in God realm, how could he possibly be an ordinary person? However, looking from another perspective, This result made Yun Qi realize that he had severely underestimated his present level of strength. When he first stepped into the sovereign profound realm, he was able to kill Xuanyuan Wenchen, whose profound strength had already reached the level of gods. Presently, his profound strength had reached the middle stage of sovereign profound realm. Most likely, the level of strength of the divine profound practitioners, whom he could go toe-to-toe with, had far surpassed his initial predictions. Looking at things now, it seemed like it was no longer possible for him to remain low-key even if he wanted to. "Ha!" Yun Qi sighed, as he silently muttered to himself in his mind. "Someone like me is like the sun hanging in a night sky. No matter how much effort is put in, it's impossible to cover this overly brilliant light." Turning around, Yun Qi faced the dazed crowd and spoke to Ji Hanfeng. "Now I should have the qualifications to become a disciple of Freezing Snow Hall, right?" "Not only that." Before Ji Hanfeng could reply, Mu Sushan was already chuckling as he spoke. "You were the last person to leave the Ice Profound Realm, and have without a doubt become the most excellent newcomer among the disciples. Not only will you have the qualifications to become an official disciple of Freezing Snow Hall, you will also receive a Jade Fallen Ice Snow Pellet as a reward. With your present cultivation level, if someone were to aid you in completely refining this Jade Fallen Ice Snow Pellet, your entire being will be reborn, and you will experience immense growth from then on." "Ho ho ho, wait a minute!" An anxious voice suddenly rang out. Li Mingcheng stepped out of the group. His face was solemn as he loudly exclaimed, "He can't receive the Jade Fallen Ice Snow Pellet. Anyone will be able to see that the result of this exam is unusual. This Yun Qi brat has clearly cheated." Under the instructions of Mu Fengshu, he had delayed his entry into the Freezing Snow Hall for so many years in order to obtain the Jade Fallen Ice Snow Pellet that was especially being bestowed in the exams this year. For today, he had endured for many years and had prepared for many years. The Jade Fallen Ice Snow Pellet was already within his reach. How could he allow it to land in the hands of someone else? Not to mention it was being awarded to trash that did not know his place. "I cheated. Where's the evidence?" Yun Qi helplessly said. With how the situation had developed, it was no longer possible for him to remain low-key. He had no choice but to follow through with this outcome. "Evidence? Heh!" Li Mingcheng coldly laughed as he walked towards Yun Qi one step at a time. "Is there even a need for evidence for this? As long as it's someone who isn't blind, it's plain to see that you have definitely cheated. Every single one of the Winterfrost direwolves in the Ice Profound Realm is a profound beast at the first level of the Divine Origin Realm, and they possess extremely powerful offensive abilities. Even I had to be especially careful when dealing with them. You, however, are just trash at the middle stage of the Sovereign Profound Realm. Your only possible outcome is to be killed instantly in the face of a Winterfrost direwolf, so how could you possibly stay in the Ice Profound Realm for such a long period of time?" "Junior brother Mingcheng is right," Ji Hanfeng said, his eyes fixated on Yun Qi. "I believe it's not just junior brother Mingcheng. Every single person here is unable to believe this outcome. Yun Qi, you sure have huge guts. Freezing Snow Hall's trial is designed to pick out excellent disciples for Divine Ice Phoenix Sect. In the face of such divine majesty, you actually dare to cheat. You are but a mere lowly person from the lower realms. What kind of place are you making the Divine Ice Phoenix Sect out to be?" "Ji Hanfeng." Yun Qi was slightly enraged by the term lowly person from the lower realms, as he unceremoniously named him out. "Before the exam, you once said that it's still possible to pass the Snowstorm Realm exam through tricks, but it's impossible for anyone to cheat through the Ice Profound Realm exam. This is what you personally said. Right now, on what basis are you suspecting me of cheating?" "That's right, on what basis? Since you're saying Yun Qi cheated, show some evidence at the very least." Mu Xiaolan charged out and stood next to Yun Qi as she said a little imposingly. Actually, in her mind, she was very nervous, very, very nervous, because even she was absolutely certain that Yun Qi must have cheated. Otherwise, with his level of profound strength, how could he possibly stay in the Ice Profound Realm for so long? However, Yun Qi was brought here by Mu Bingyun, so she had no choice but to bite the bullet and stand on his side. Furthermore, he must not admit to cheating. Though she did not know what method Yun Qi used, cheating in Freezing Snow Hall's exam was a huge scandal. If it were to turn out to be real, she was not concerned about the consequences that would befall Yun Qi, but there was a huge possibility that it would affect Mu Bingyun's reputation. No matter what, she could not allow such a thing to happen. "It's absolutely easy to determine if Yun Qi has actually cheated," Li Mingcheng said with confidence. During the exam earlier, Xianxia stayed in the ice profound realm for exactly 15 minutes. I, Li Mingcheng, admit that I am incapable of achieving such a feat, but Xianxia is actually able to do it. Then, if he did not cheat, his strength must definitely far surpass mine. When these words were spoken, the surrounding profound practitioners instantly broke into laughter. Li Mingcheng was at the third level of the divine origin realm and was even at the late stages. Adding his innate gifts, he was definitely capable of going toe-to-toe with an opponent at the fourth level of the divine origin realm. As for Xianxia, he was someone of the lower realms who had not even stepped into the divine way. He was the joke of this exam and had no qualifications to even be compared to Li Mingcheng at all. How could he possibly be stronger than Li Mingcheng? Then, Li Mingcheng raised his hand towards Xianxia. His expression carried relish and scorn. Whether he has cheated or not, we will know once we exchange blows. Xianxia, since you claim that you did not cheat, then let us spar it out. Oh, you don't have to completely beat me, as long as you are able to hold out against 5 of my attacks. I, Li Mingcheng, will admit that you did not cheat. However, if you are unable to get through 5 attacks from someone whose results can't even compare to yours, hehehe. Ha 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 ha, what a great suggestion from junior brother Mingcheng, Ji Hanfeng laughed. The surrounding crowd of profound practitioners either gave Xianxia pitiful or smug glances. In their hearts, all of them believed that Li Mingcheng was truly thinking too highly of him for proposing 5 attacks. Or, he was just trying to toy with him. Xianxia, did you hear that? Ji Hanfeng said in a cold, commanding tone. If you wish to prove that you did not cheat, then exchange blows with Li Mingcheng to prove your innocence. If you truly have the capabilities to stay in the ice profound realm for such a long time, dealing with just 5 blows from Li Mingcheng should be a piece of cake, right? No! Xiaolan tugged onto Xianxia's sleeves and said with a stern look. Xianxia was exempted from the first exam because of Main Hall Master's special permission. For the Snowstorm Realm and Ice Profound Realm exams, Xianxia followed the same procedures as the rest of the participants and entered the same profound formations for the exams. You lot do not have any evidence and are just throwing out your own guesses, so on what basis are you claiming that he cheated? The reason why Xianxia was personally brought here by my master was because he possessed such strength. So on what basis does he have to suffer from all your constant suspicions? Furthermore, Ji Hanfeng, you seem to have forgotten. Xiaolan raised her voice a little. The exams of Freezing Snow Hall are all completed by the profound formations. You are just a supervisor and recorder, and you do not have the qualifications to intervene in the process or outcomes of the exams. The outcomes of the exams are already determined in the instant after the disappearance of the profound formations. You basically do not have the qualifications to have Xianxia prove that he did not cheat. Ji Hanfeng was speechless for a moment, without a word to rebut. Because what Xiaolan said was exactly right. He was just a supervisor and recorder. The outcomes and process of the exams were all determined and undergone by the profound formations themselves. He, a single disciple of Freezing Snow Hall, basically did not have the qualifications to intervene. Li Mingcheng hurriedly stepped forward and said in a righteous tone, "The matter of Xianxia cheating is no longer just a problem concerning the outcomes of the exams, but a problem concerning the Freezing Snow Hall, and even the fairness and reputation of the entire Divine Ice Phoenix sect. If HMPH, you're making it sound so extravagant, but in truth, isn't it all just for the Jade Fallen Ice Snow Pellet?" Xiaolan's single sentence had instantly pierced through Li Mingcheng's thoughts, and she urged, "Ji Hanfeng, the exam has ended so long ago. Why have you yet to announce the results and hand over the Jade Fallen Ice Snow Pellet to Xianxia? This is what you should be doing." Presently, Xiaolan felt as if her buttocks were on fire, as she simply wanted to immediately settle the matters here and bring Xianxia over to Bingyun. They would then think of countermeasures after that. She must not allow this case of cheating turn into reality right on the spot. Xiaolan is right. Ji Hanfeng indeed does not have the qualifications to intervene in the process and outcomes of the exams. Naturally, he does not have the qualifications to have Xianxia exchange blows with Li Mingcheng to prove his innocence. A calm voice resounded from the back. The person who spoke was naturally Mu Sushan. Hearing Mu Sushan coming to her rescue, Xiaolan heaved a huge sigh of relief in her heart. Just as she was about to cast a grateful glance, Mu Sushan's next words had almost made her jump. "But I do." Chapter 956 Starpicker Stone, Senior Sushan, you... Xiaolan was stunned all of a sudden. Mu Sushan stepped forward and said respectfully, Yun Qi, no one has ever passed the freezing snow hall's examination without having profound strength at the divine way in the history of our divine Ice Phoenix sect, and your rank is even beyond everyone else. Even though there is no possibility for cheating in the Ice Profound realm, not mentioning the people here, even if the Great Realm King came here personally, she would question the results. I am sure you know this clearly in your heart. Yun Qi, thus, as the general manager of Freezing Snow Hall, I order you to prove that you didn't cheat in the Ice Profound Realm examination. You cannot refuse this. Mu Sushan's brows lowered slightly, because this is no longer simply about the result of the examination. If you cannot provide proof, then not only will you lose your qualification of entering Freezing Snow Hall, you will also be punished severely. Senior Sushan, you, how could you Mu Xiaolan stomped her foot in panic. Li Mingcheng started laughing triumphantly, and his eyes were filled with pity when looking at Yun Qi. Most of the other profound practitioners revealed gloating expressions as well, because this time it was the general manager who spoke up personally. Senior Sushan is the general manager of our Freezing Snow Hall. His position in Freezing Snow Hall is almost the same as the main hall master. Each of Senior Sushan's words weighs a ton. Our divine Ice Phoenix sect is a divine holy ground. How can we allow a small fry like you to tarnish it? Yun Qi, what do you have to say for yourself this time? Ji Hanfeng said in a harsh tone. Yun Qi looked at Mu Sushan carefully. He didn't feel any trace of hostility towards him. Instead, it was more like a deep curiosity and exploration. All right, how can I prove myself? Yun Qi looked at Mu Sushan and asked helplessly. Naturally, you will prove with your strength, Mu Sushan said with a faint smile. Li Mingcheng's suggestion is very good. If you used your own strength to remain in the Ice Profound realm for a long period of time, there is no reason for you to not be able to go head-to-head against Li Mingcheng. You will fight against Li Mingcheng, and after 5 moves, the results will be clear. Li Mingcheng, you are the first one to accuse Yun Qi for cheating, so I shall trouble you to take care of this matter. Hearing Mu Sushan's approval, Li Mingcheng was a bit flattered all of a sudden and said immediately, This disciple will definitely make an all-out effort. Senior Sushan can be assured of this. His expression became serious as he faced Yun Qi and said tauntingly, Here, Yun Qi, use all of your power and let me witness the strength of the first place of the Ice Profound Realm's examination. I will not take back what I said just now, only 5 moves. If you don't fall within 5 moves, you win. If you didn't cheat, it should be the easiest thing in the world with your strength which won against me in the examination. However, Yun Qi ignored him and said while still looking at Mu Sushan, Senior Sushan, your identity is unusual. In this place, I naturally do not have the power to resist your command, and I indeed am not able to refute what Senior Sushan has said just now. But there is something I wish to address. Oh, Mu Sushan looked at his expression with some interest. Very simple, Yun Qi said indifferently. If I go against Li Mingcheng and lose within 5 moves, not only will I lose my qualification to enter Freezing Snow Hall, I will also be punished severely, as you have said earlier. The consequences are so severe that it is terrifying to think about. But if I win, that proves that I indeed did not cheat. Then the accusation on me right now would be without reason and is an unfair treatment. If the divine Ice Phoenix sect is this strict on seeking justice, then shouldn't I receive some compensation? Mu Xiaolan was shocked, her eyes widened as she gaped. Ha, Ji Hanfeng laughed carefree. Yun Qi, if you voluntarily admit it, Senior Sushan might even give you some leeway and lessen the severity of your punishment. But now, even when all is lost, you're still aiming to shoot the moon. This is simply ridiculous. I am suddenly extremely curious how lowly of a lower realm your birthplace has to be to nurture a gargantuan joke like you. Yun Qi indifferently swept his gaze at Ji Hanfeng a second time. Senior brother Hanfeng, he's obviously at his wit's end and is struggling even though he has already been caught. Li Mingcheng said with a sneer. Ho. Mu Sushan laughed faintly, yet still nodded. I have been in Freezing Snow Hall for several millennia, but I have yet to see a disciple who dared to request compensation, let alone someone who has yet to officially join the hall. However, your words have some reason to them. All right then, Mu Sushan reached out his hand, and a blue light flashed before him. Immediately afterwards, a meter-square stone that released the dreamy splendor of stars casually floated in the air above him. Once this strange stone appeared, Mu Xiaolan shrieked out almost instantly, Starpiker stone! SSSSS, Starpiker stone! Ji Hanfeng's reaction was even more extreme than Mu Xiaolan's. He raised his head to look at the dreamy starlight and was so startled that his chin almost smashed to the floor. Upon hearing the name, Starpiker Stone, Li Mingcheng's entire body trembled. His mouth gaped open, and his eyes almost bulged out of their sockets. Half of the other profound practitioners had blank expressions, but the other half that knew of the Starpiker Stone were all stupefied and weren't able to breathe. Starpiker Stone? What the heck was that? This was Yuan Qi's first time hearing and seeing this kind of stone. However, the strange radiance it released was proof that it definitely was not an ordinary object. Judging from everyone's reactions, this stone was evidently more precious than the jade-fallen ice soul pellet. Right, this is precisely a Starpiker Stone. Mu Sushin continued with a smile. This Starpiker Stone is found far above the skies, created after being bathed in starlight for at least 3,000 years, something that can only be met but not sought. Its strength and level of rarity is far beyond that of the jade-fallen ice soul pellet. Forget about freezing snow hall, even if it was an Ice Phoenix Palace disciple, not many would receive such a reward. Now, if you are able to stand victorious under 5 moves from Li Mingcheng and prove that you did not cheat in any way, you will obtain not only the jade-fallen ice soul pellet, but this Starpiker Stone as well. Does this satisfy you? Ah, Senior Sushin, this. Ji Hanfeng's brain was temporarily in disorder due to his shock, but he immediately recovered. Yuan Qi's victory was simply non-existent. With profound strength at the 5th level of the Sovereign Profound Realm, it was utterly impossible for him to get through just one of Li Mingcheng's exchanges. In other words, this reward, that even Ice Phoenix disciples would drool over, was basically a feint purely used to silence Yuan Qi. Once this idea surfaced in his head, Ji Hanfeng quickly corrected himself. Senior Sushin is truly adept at handling rewards and punishments. Yuan Qi, a stone like the Starpiker Stone is one that even I have not touched in all my years in freezing snow hall. Senior Sushin has given you huge face this time. Do you have anything else to say? Li Mingcheng's breathing had become more rapid, and only after a long while did he shift his gaze away from the Starpiker Stone. He thought to himself in his mind, not only is this freezing snow hall general manager easy to talk with, his actions are so generous as well. It seems like I must curry favor with this one after entering freezing snow hall. All right, Yuan Qi nodded, then turned around to face Li Mingcheng. You may begin. There was no meaning in staying his hand now that it had come to this point. Yuan Qi, you... Xiaolan, come over here. Mu Xiaolan still wanted to say something to Yuan Qi, but she was interrupted by Mu Sushin. She obediently stepped back and stood next to Mu Sushin. She was already greatly regretting bringing Yuan Qi from the profound sky continent. Sigh, and he just had to also be Master's savior. What should I do? Freezing Snow Hall's examination had already reached its end, and the other groups of examinees were also mostly done. More and more people were being lured in by the activity and came circling over. Included among them were recently passed profound practitioners and the freezing snow hall disciples that supervised and maintained order amongst the examinees. Hey, I'll say this first, you two are just exchanging pointers. You definitely can't injure each other, Mu Xiaolan said in a loud voice. Since the situation could no longer be avoided, the only thing she could do was try to prevent an accident from happening to Yuan Qi. After all, in front of a power at the divine way, the middle stage of the sovereign profound realm was just too weak. If Li Mingcheng put a little more strength in his moves, Yuan Qi would definitely get injured. Since they're exchanging blows, it must be at full power, so how could they not get injured? Ji Hanfeng said solemnly. However, Senior Sister Xiaolan has reminded me of something. Li Mingcheng, Yuan Qi, this is freezing snow hall. When you two exchange blows, even if you gain the advantage, you mustn't lose all proprietary and deal a killing blow. Otherwise, the repercussions are inexcusable. Getting injured, however, is unavoidable. No matter the outcome, no matter how great of an injury either of you suffer, the other party cannot argue against it. Otherwise, I'm afraid everyone would look down on you. Yuan Qi was still someone Mu Xiaolan had brought over. Even though he definitely did not believe that Yuan Qi was that important to Mu Bingyun, he wasn't brave enough to let Yuan Qi die. And from the meaning in his words, as long as Yuan Qi did not die, suffering any kind of injury would not be a problem at all. Li Mingcheng instantly understood as the corner of his mouth hooked up. You, Ji Hanfeng, you're doing this on purpose, Mu Xiaolan angrily stated. All right, Mu Sushin actually reached out a hand to block Mu Xiaolan. What Ji Hanfeng said isn't wrong. It is hard to prevent injuries from happening in an exchange of blows. If injuries cannot be made, then the exchange would be meaningless. You may begin. Mu Sushan's words seemed to manifest his disapproval of Xianxia, causing the smile on Li Mingcheng's face to become even more willful. He casually stood in front of Xianxia. Xianxia, don't be nervous. Don't worry, I will be lenient enough on you. Take out your weapon. Oh, it's best if you reveal the profound artifact that you used to cheat through the ice profound realm. It must be powerful. Take it out, let me experience it. The surroundings immediately filled with the roars of laughter. No need. Xianxia stood still, not a tinge of nervousness in any part of his body. You don't even want to use a weapon. Oh, that's right, the outcome will be the same anyways. Li Mingcheng laughed. He pressed his right hand behind him and stretched out his left to Xianxia. Come, you go first then. I've given you enough time to store up energy, so you'd better not disappoint me. Heh. Xianxia chuckled and then immediately put both his hands behind him. Since you are the challenger, you should be the one going first. The roars of laughter in the surroundings immediately erupted. Mu Xiaolan used her hands to hold her face. However, Mu Sushan, who stood beside her, firmly locked his deep gaze on Xianxia without shifting it in the slightest. Xianxia's profound strength aura was only at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm. He had repeatedly confirmed this, so it definitely couldn't be wrong. Xianxia also definitely was not able to conceal his profound strength before him, even with the help of a profound artifact. However, whether it be his expression or his aura, they both revealed an experience that seemed to have undergone 100 lifetimes of change. His confidence and serenity also seemed to have gone through a myriad life and death situations. All this could not be faked. This youth, heh, 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 Li Mingcheng instantly erupted in laughter. I'm afraid it'll be hard to find someone like you once every 10,000 years. This has completely widened my eyes. All right, then I'll go along with your suggestion. While smiling darkly, Li Mingcheng suddenly jumped and his left hand casually lowered, as though it was aiming at Xianxia's chest. The instant he acted, an ice-cold frost energy instantly gathered in the space around Xianxia, freezing everything in an ice seal. When he offered 5 moves, he originally wanted to play with him for a while, but he was unable to tolerate Xianxia's pretending to be strong attitude. Since more and more spectators were also gathering, this was just the chance for him to display his strength before the new disciples. Chapter 957. Only at this level Xianxia was completely motionless facing Li Mingcheng's approach, both his hands still at his back. He didn't assume a defensive stance, nor did he look like he was going to counterattack. Nobody felt like this was the slightest bit odd because they all sensed the frost power Li Mingcheng released. With Xianxia's strength, he simply couldn't struggle at all beneath Li Mingcheng's ice seal. The outcome of the match was decided in an instant. To everyone present, this exchange of blows was a pointless joke. Seeing Xianxia, whose movements had been sealed by his cold energy, and thinking back to how Xianxia didn't know what was good for him, a sinister look flashed on Li Mingcheng's face. The profound strength in his palm that blasted at Xianxia suddenly intensified. He clearly wanted to give Xianxia heavy injuries. You asked for it, Li Mingcheng shouted lowly, as the frost profound energy condensed in his hand maliciously shot toward Xianxia's chest. Bang! An ear-splitting air explosion sounded in the space that had been frozen in ice. Right when Li Mingcheng's hand touched Xianxia's body, it immediately went through, scattering a false image. Caught off guard, Li Mingcheng fiercely staggered forward and nearly fell down. He immediately withdrew his power and quickly stabilized his balance as shock rushed through his heart. First move. When his right hand was not even 10 meters away, Xianxia's voice drifted over. No one had expected this scene. Li Mingcheng's attack was indeed neither fast nor slow, so it was great that Xianxia had dodged it, but they had all clearly sensed the frost aura Li Mingcheng had released. With Xianxia's strength, it was utterly impossible for him to have broken free. Could it be that Li Mingcheng had not locked in place earlier? Ah, what happened? Mu Xiaolan, who expected Xianxia to instantly get injured by Li Mingcheng's attack, raised her eyes, her mouth slightly opened. Oh, what an astonishing movement skill. This kid is indeed out of the ordinary, Mu Sushan muttered. No one was more clear than Mu Sushan on whether or not Li Mingcheng actually released frost profound energy earlier. In the space several meters around Xianxia, the circulation of air had already completely halted back then. Everything had been locked by cold energy, and Xianxia was smack in the center of the cold energy seal. But in this frost seal, he was actually able to instantly dodge. It was as though the ice seal Li Mingcheng created had never existed. Li Mingcheng was shocked and couldn't remain calm at all. However, once he turned around, his face was a stretch of wild arrogance. His gaze was astonishingly one which a strong practitioner wore when praising a weaker practitioner. He. Not bad, kid. The move before was just a greeting. Since I have 5 moves to play with, if I instantly finished it off, then that wouldn't be interesting. With your cultivation only at the middle stage of the sovereign profound realm, I was worried that you wouldn't be able to dodge that move. It seems like you haven't disappointed me. Come, let's continue. Once these words came out, the surrounding crowd immediately revealed expressions of understanding. Oh, I see. So he was only playing with him as expected. This doesn't prove anything. The cold energy from before probably didn't even touch Xianxia. If it did, forget about dodging. Having heavy injuries would be a light result. Li Mingcheng's actually in the mood to play with such a weak opponent. Could there be some sort of resentment between the two? Li Mingcheng should have been the exam's #1, but Xianxia cheated to surpass him. Of course, he'll want to mess around with him. This Xianxia's courage is also quite something. A little lower realm person dares to cheat as soon as he arrives at the divine Ice Phoenix sect. It seems like the lower realms are used to despicable means. He's going to totally fail this time. However, I heard that he was brought from a lower realm by an Ice Phoenix Palace master, but he's so weak and even dares to cheat on the freezing snow hall's examination. That Ice Phoenix Palace master shouldn't even bother to waste their power to protect him, right? Heh, he's starting to panic a little. Mu Sushin mysteriously laughed. Oh, he's definitely panicked now. He just had to act this calm. I'm already 100 times more panicked than him. Mu Xiaolan commented madly. She thought Mu Sushin meant Xianxia. Mu Sushin glanced at Mu Xiaolan and stated, "It looks like even though he was brought here by you and Palace Master Bingyun from the lower realms, you still do not quite understand him." Of course I understand him, Mu Xiaolan said indignantly. He's always been like this. He's obviously this weak, but he still acts this fearless. Not only is his mouth cheap, he also likes to show off, talk big and bully girls. He's simply a despicable low person without a sense of shame. It's fine if he was like that on his own planet, but he's still like this after coming to the Snow Song realm. You can say that he brought Master a huge misfortune the instant he arrived. I don't even know what I should do after this. This makes me so angry. Even though Mu Xiaolan suddenly began to ramble, Mu Sushin continued to stay silent. Even though Li Mingcheng tried his best to make it seem as though he was playing with Xianxia earlier, he was well aware of what happened. Being able to instantly break away from his frost seal was definitely not something a sovereign profound realm practitioner could accomplish. This had caused him to faintly feel a sense of unease. "Xianxia, I'll see how you'll struggle out of what's coming next," Li Mingcheng muttered, both hands quickly condensing 2 currents of cold energy. Then with a step, he suddenly pushed out, releasing the 2 currents of cold energy which instantly transformed into 2 gigantic frost tornadoes. They both headed straight for Xianxia. "WAOW?" The surrounding crowd immediately cried out in surprise. After all, the previous cold energy seal was colorless and formless, so they could only sense its aura. However, these 2 frost tornadoes had become substance. This terrifying cold energy that came from the divine way had even made the bodies of the weaker profound practitioners, who stood quite a distance away, turn cold. Does Li Mingcheng seriously want to kill Xianxia?" asked a profound practitioner that had just passed the examination. The ice gold might released by the 2 frost tornadoes pressed onto Xianxia's body. Li Mingcheng's move this time didn't seem like he held anything back. Even if it were a profound practitioner in the early stage of the divine origin realm, they would find it difficult to move under this suppression. Li Mingcheng's face revealed a slightly sinister expression. With a change in his hand posture, the frost tornadoes suddenly accelerated, attacking Xianxia together. Bang! With the burst of cold energy, countless ice shards wildly danced. However, it was still a slowly dissipating phantom that remained in the area of devastation. Li Mingcheng's pupils shrunk, but he instantly responded. The 2 frost tornadoes that had yet to exhaust their energy suddenly merged, bursting amidst his somewhat fierce yell. The range of power he meticulously kept enclosed was violently released, and a terrifying frost tornado instantly engulfed everything within a 3-kilometer radius. "Let's see how you'll escape this time." "Wah!" The spectating profound practitioners immediately cried out in surprise and couldn't help but retreat in panic. Mu Sushan's brows furrowed, and he quickly reached out a hand, but he then withdrew it, eyes still on the Li Mingcheng before him. When the frost scattered, the air was still filled with an astonishing cold energy. Yuan Qi stood only 100 meters away from Li Mingcheng, in front of a cold energy that was able to freeze the blood of a profound practitioner in the early stage of the divine origin realm. His expression was actually a field of tranquility. He spoke with cold indifference. This was the third move. Yuan Qi's voice greatly startled Li Mingcheng. As if the entire world had completely solidified, absolute silence reigned. Those who were able to stand here today were all experts that had stepped into the divine way. Even they would have had to use all their might to evade the frost tornado that Li Mingcheng had suddenly released. The reason why he allowed the range of the frost tornado to cover such a huge expanse was so Yuan Qi had no place to escape. But from Yuan Qi's appearance, it was evident that he had always been at a place not too far from Li Mingcheng and didn't escape the frost tornado's range. Yet he was still safe and sound. What happened? Mu Xiaolan was stunned yet again, while surprise also appeared within Mu Sushan's eyes. He suddenly discovered that he had still underestimated this extremely strange person from the lower realms. The spectators were all left dumbstruck. This time, even if they were idiots, they would never believe that Li Mingcheng was still playing with Yuan Qi. Yuan Qi, you obviously used some kind of protective profound artifact, Li Mingcheng shouted as he pointed at Yuan Qi. He absolutely was unable to accept that someone who was only at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm would actually be unharmed under his power. After losing to me in the exam, you claimed that I cheated. After not being able to harm me in this exchange of blows, you say that I used a protective profound artifact. Yuan Qi's mouth curled slightly, revealing an undisguised sneer. And you're only at this level. Li Mingcheng's chest heaved so hard that it seemed to nearly explode. He did this to sneer and said lowly, "It seems like I hit the mark. The 3 attacks I dealt earlier were all instantly dodged, evidence that you were drawing from the support of some kind of spatial profound artifact. With a profound strength only at the sovereign profound realm, you were actually able to stay safe beneath my cold energy. Other than having the assistance from a protective profound artifact, there can't be any other possible way you could have done that. Aside from drawing support from a profound artifact to dodge and protect yourself, you never dared to exchange blows with me directly. That is the best proof. Since that's the case," Yuan Qi slowly raised his hand, "please use an all-out attack this time. I definitely will not evade it." The instant Yuan Qi's voice fell, Li Mingcheng had already shouted, directly pouncing toward Yuan Qi, as though he was afraid Yuan Qi would renege on his word. Ice spirit surrounded his opened hand as he ruthlessly grabbed at Yuan Qi's chest. This time, Yuan Qi really did not evade. Instead, he took half a step forward and punched out with his right fist in welcome. "You're seeking death?" Seeing that Yuan Qi had actually chosen to directly meet his attack, Li Mingcheng's eyes lit up. The profound energy in his body also surged greatly as his entire hand was shrouded in solidified frost. He was going to take back the grievance induced by the previous 3 moves with this one attack. Bang! A vibration sounded as their 2 fists met under the gazes of everyone present. The 2 attacks that were not fancy at all came together and space slightly trembled. The savageness on Li Mingcheng's face instantly changed into terror and incredulity because what he felt wasn't a complete crushing of his opponent. Instead, it felt as though he had struck an extremely tall mountain. In the next instant, amidst the burst of profound energy, the 2 people flew backward at the same time. Yuan Qi somersaulted in the air and landed steadily, while Li Mingcheng was the one who stumbled and nearly knelt to the ground. He raised his head to look at Yuan Qi, his eyes fiercely trembling. His entire right arm slightly trembled and had become completely numb. "This is your true strength?" Yuan Qi casually flicked his wrist and sneered. "I wondered how powerful you were since you were so arrogant previously, but it seems you're only at this level. If I had cheated inside the exam, then what are you?" The current development had completely exceeded everyone's expectations. They had originally thought that they were watching a joke in action. Those who had come to watch the show believed that the only outcome was the exposure of the cheater, Yuan Qi. In front of Li Mingcheng, profound strength at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm basically couldn't even put up a fight. They never expected that the one being played was not Yuan Qi. It actually seemed to be Li Mingcheng. Especially just a moment ago, all of them clearly saw it was a genuine, direct confrontation. That shocking fluctuation of power was proof that Li Mingcheng went all out. However, not only did he not defeat Yunqi, it seemed as though he fell to a disadvantage. It's a lie, right? Asked a horrified profound practitioner. Is he really only at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm? This is impossible, right? Li Mingcheng is at the peak of the 3rd level of the divine origin realm. How could this even happen? Chapter 958 Cornered Dog. He's actually this powerful. Xiaolan was stunned. But he's obviously just at the sovereign profound realm. How could he? Profound strength that has yet to reach the divine way is actually comparable to a divine origin realm profound strength that has just entered the divine way. Sushin sighed. Forget about you, even I have never heard about this before. I doubt this has ever happened in the entire history of our Snow Song realm. The man your master brought back home is truly an impressive fellow. I suspect that this unprecedented display of power may alarm even a great realm king. Xiaolan. Li Mingcheng was panting heavily. The odd gazes that were directed at him felt like sharp blades that plunged into his body. Not even in his dreams had he thought that Yunqi would be this powerful. Although he was obviously at the sovereign profound realm, he was able to meet his power directly and not lose. By now he realized, even through his shock, that Yunqi most likely didn't cheat in the previous exams. In fact, he might even have goofed around back in the snowstorm realm. The reason he waited so many years to participate in this exam was for the Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet. At first, he was sure that the prize might as well be in his pocket already, but there was no way he could say that Yunqi was cheating now. This also meant that the Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet was most likely going to fall into Yunqi's hands. After entering Freezing Snow Hall, the first thing he had wanted to do was to swiftly accumulate a considerable amount of fame through his outstanding talent and his status as the main hall master's nephew. Not only did he fail to show off his might, he was utterly humiliated before thousands of staring eyes. In fact, he had turned into Yunqi's stepping stone instead. Li Mingcheng clenched his teeth tightly and trembled all over. He felt like his lungs would burst from the fury he was feeling. He no longer had the patience to wonder how on earth Yunqi was able to unleash such unbelievable strength, even though he was only at sovereign profound realm. He only wanted to step over Yunqi's body and regain the pride and fame he had lost with all his might. Heh! Li Mingcheng let out a soft groan. You have no doubt surprised me, Yunqi, and I will admit that I've underestimated you. But you still don't have the qualification to act all high and mighty before me. While he said this, a blue glow suddenly appeared around his body. When the bluish light gradually turned thick and somewhat blinding, a large amount of ice spirits winked into existence and danced swiftly around him. The temperature inside Freezing Snow Hall was dropping at a tremendous rate. Ding! There was a soft ring that sounded like water falling on an ice crystal. Suddenly, a plum-shaped profound seal appeared and caused the surrounding cold air to increase tremendously. A penetrating cold pierced through everyone's body and stabbed into their minds, causing them to shiver all over. This is the Cold Blue Formation. Li Mingcheng has actually learned the Cold Blue Formation, Ji Hanfeng exclaimed in surprise. He had never heard of anyone who could unleash the Cold Blue Formation, while they were still at the 3rd level of the divine origin realm despite spending many years in Freezing Snow Hall. All the cultivators who stood a little too close to Li Mingcheng subconsciously backed away from him. One could imagine just how powerful this Cold Blue Formation was from its shocking aura alone. Anyone could see that Li Mingcheng's anger was completely ignited because he couldn't accept the earlier outcome. In fact, he might actually attempt to kill Yunqi outright. Li Mingcheng's continuously swelling aura surprised even Xiaolan. She hurriedly shouted, "Get out of the way, Yunqi! Have you gone crazy, Li Mingcheng?" Heh, Yunqi! Li Mingcheng pushed out his palm with a malevolent sneer on his face. "If you're a man, then try this." Li Mingcheng roared and crossed his arms in an attempt to unleash the blue cold formation. However, the space before his eyes blurred as Yunqi's face suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Yunqi executed extreme mirage lightning and covered dozens of meters in an instant like a ghost. He appeared right in front of Li Mingcheng and slammed his elbow fiercely into the man's stomach. For whatever reason, the fleshy impact resulted in a boom that sounded much like a thunderclap. Yunqi's physical body was unbelievably frightening. His impossibly swift strike literally looked like it came out of thin air from Li Mingcheng's point of view, so he wasn't guarded against the blow in the slightest. His originally erect figure was instantly knocked into a right angle as his stomach caved in, and his back bent outward in a ridiculous fashion. The plum-shaped profound seal Li Mingcheng had just formed behind him dissipated directly as he flew outward like an ejected cannonball. Bang! Li Mingcheng instantly flew back several dozen meters before he slammed heavily into the hall pillar at the back. He then bounced off the pillar and crashed fiercely onto the ground with a dull thud. Since his jaw hit the ground first, the fall turned out to be the perfect reproduction of the idiom, falling flat on one's face. Two bloody teeth flew out of his mouth and soared far, far away. One of them happened to roll and pause right next to Xianxia's feet. The entire freezing snow main hall was silent aside from the sounds of people's jaws crashing to the ground. Ah! Li Mingcheng clutched his stomach with both arms and curled up on the ground like a dried shrimp. He wasn't able to stand on his feet for a very, very long time. Blood and foam dripped out of the corner of his mouth nonstop, and even his groans sounded exceptionally weak and painful. Countless dull gazes were trained on Li Mingcheng's fallen figure. Nobody, especially Li Mingcheng himself, could believe that he would fall to such a state after receiving only a single blow from Xianxia. The only possibility this could have happened was that Xianxia's strength not only surpassed Li Mingcheng's, they were not even comparable in the slightest. If anyone else had been in Xianxia's place, they wouldn't have dared to deal such a heavy blow to Li Mingcheng, the main hall master's nephew himself, and beat him into the sorry state he currently was in. Unfortunately for him, the person he provoked was none other than the bringer of disaster, Xianxia. After being repeatedly taunted and attacked with the intention of severely injuring or even killing him, there was no chance in hell that Xianxia was going to let him off easy. Although he told himself countless times that he had to maintain a low profile in the God realm, nature just wasn't something that could be suppressed or changed easily. It wouldn't be called nature otherwise. Ji Hanfeng's mind went blank for several breaths before he finally recovered himself and made his way towards Li Mingcheng's fallen figure. He carefully lifted his upper body and asked, "Are you all right, junior brother Mingcheng?" While Li Mingcheng might be racked with pain, his breathing wasn't actually too weak, nor were his internal injuries too serious. It was only then that Ji Hanfeng let out a heavy sigh of relief. Li Mingcheng was the nephew of the main hall master, and Mu Fengshu had always taken his side unconditionally. Even he would have to suffer the consequences if something really were to happen to Li Mingcheng. Xianxia stepped right past Li Mingcheng's broken tooth and stopped in front of Li Mingcheng and Ji Hanfeng. He said expressionlessly, "We are past 5 moves. Now are you still going to accuse me of cheating, Li Mingcheng?" "NGH." A trail of bloody foam suddenly surged to the corner of his lips just as he started speaking. His upper body bent downward in pain once more. But no matter how much pain his body was suffering right now, how could it possibly compare to even 1/10,000th of the humiliation that was inflicted on his soul? He had waited and cultivated hard and long for this day. He had thought that today would be the day he was reborn and lifted to glory. He never imagined that a lower realm being whose profound strength hadn't even reached the divine way, a person whom he thought was lower than trash, would destroy all of his future. He never thought for a second that he had brought all of this on himself. Xianxia looked away from him. In fact, he didn't even deign to cast Ji Hanfeng a glance as he turned towards Mu Sushan and said, "Senior Sushan, this should be enough to prove that I haven't cheated, right?" While he was saying this, he noticed that Mu Xiaolan was staring at him with round eyes. She had a shocked look and an open mouth next to Mu Sushan. She looked like she didn't recognize him at all. He immediately snorted proudly on the inside. "Now you know how awesome I am, little girl." "Ha ha ha ha." Mu Sushan laughed loudly before he stroked his beard with a meaningful look in his eyes. "To be honest, while I never believed that anyone could have cheated in the Ice Profound Realm, I still found it hard to believe that someone at Sovereign Profound Realm could stay inside the Ice Profound Realm for such a long time. It would seem that the great knowledge and experience I pride myself in are ultimately just my own narrow thoughts. During your duel against Li Mingcheng, you didn't lose to him in 5 moves. In fact, you actually beat him in 5 moves instead. Moreover," Mu Sushan's eyes glittered, "this still isn't your full strength. It would seem that Palace Master Bingyun has brought back quite the genius for our Divine Ice Phoenix sect. Although we've only met each other today, this is the first time I've felt so eager to know how far someone will go down the path of cultivation." Mu Xiaolan's already gaping mouth opened even wider when she heard Mu Sushan's unbelievably high praise of Xianxia. "Thank you for the praise, Senior Sushan." A small wry smile sprung onto Xianxia's lips. After those words, his hopes for a low-profile and divine ice phoenix sect might as well be non-existent. The concept of divine way didn't exist in Yun Qi's world. Today was also the first day he arrived at the God realm. That was why he had no idea how shocking, how absolutely unnatural it was for a non-divine way cultivator to defeat a divine way cultivator. At the very least, no one present in this place had ever heard of such a feat. That was also why no one believed that Yun Qi had passed through the profound ice realm's exam with his own strength. Mu Sushan's status in freezing snow hall was incredibly high. He was higher than all hall masters and instructors, and he was second only to main hall master Mu Sushan. Forget the cultivators that had just passed through the exam. His praise of Yun Qi had stunned even the official freezing snow hall disciples present in this area. All the sneering and disdainful gazes that showered Yun Qi earlier were gone. They could only blush in embarrassment when they recalled their earlier laughter. Hanfeng, pass the jade-fallen ice soul pellet to Yun Qi and take Li Mingcheng away for treatment, Mu Sushan said calmly and extended his hand. I haven't forgotten my earlier promise. Now that you've proven that you haven't cheated, the jade-fallen ice soul pellet and this Starpiker stone belong to you as well. They will definitely not be wasted on you. Li Mingcheng might be racked with terrible pain thanks to Yun Qi's attack, but he could still hear the surrounding voices. He could hear Yun Qi's ridiculing words and Mo Sushan's praise and award clearly. He was supposed to be the main character today, but now no one paid any attention to him at all. As he lay on the ground like a dying dog whose leg had just been snapped, he felt as if everyone was laughing and sympathizing with him. He could already imagine himself becoming the joke of the entire freezing snow hall in the future, and he would suffer this humiliation and shadow for as long as Yun Qi continued to live. He would never be able to lift his head again. Yun Qi! Li Mingcheng's teeth were chattering, and his mind was a complete mess. Suddenly, he let out an animalistic groan and broke out of Ji Hanfeng's grasp abruptly. He pounced towards Yun Qi's back in a twisted posture and grabbed an ice longsword, gathering all of his crazed, fueled strength and stabbing it towards Yun Qi's heart while roaring. No one had predicted this turn of events. Not only was Yun Qi's back facing towards Li Mingcheng, they were less than 16 meters away from each other. Mu Sushan's face changed slightly, but he was already too late to stop him considering that they were so close to each other. Mu Xiaolan only managed to let out a frightful scream. Before Li Mingcheng had acted, Yun Qi could already feel his near-uncontrollable hatred locking onto his figure with impossible clarity. Therefore, he was guarded against the attack from the beginning. The second Li Mingcheng acted, he had already turned around like lightning, causing Li Mingcheng's anger-fueled stab to hit only the air. Then Yun Qi swung his elbow fiercely to the back, shattering Li Mingcheng's many layers of profound energy force field and striking his heart heavily. The instant his strength had erupted, Yun Qi's eyes moved a little as he muttered inwardly. Damn, in his madness, Li Mingcheng had gathered all of his strength and hatred into this one strike. He hadn't saved any energy to protect his body at all. Therefore, the supposedly moderate blow was destined to wound Li Mingcheng seriously in his current state. Uuaagh. A blood-curdling scream resounded inside the hall as Li Mingcheng spat out a trail of blood at least 3 meters long into the air. He flew horizontally across the ground like a pierced blood bag, even as a loud roar exploded beside Yun Qi. Stop! The charging Ji Hanfeng had actually attacked Yun Qi almost at the same time as Yun Qi had struck Li Mingcheng. A frigid, profound energy slammed into Yun Qi's back without mercy. No one knew that Li Mingcheng would suddenly lose his mind and ambush Yun Qi. The fact that Ji Hanfeng had suddenly attacked Yun Qi surprised them even more. Ji Hanfeng was at the middle stage, the divine origin realm, and an official disciple of freezing snow hall. His power was on a completely different level compared to Li Mingcheng. His attack wasn't something Yun Qi could endure at all. Yun Qi's vision blackened as he felt like he was struck by a mountain in the head. The fierce attack blasted him towards the distance. Yun Qi! Mu Xiaolan exclaimed in shock and swiftly charged forwards. She caught Yun Qi firmly in midair and swiftly dispelled whatever energy still racked his body. She was just about to inquire about his injuries when she noticed that he actually looked uninjured. Her mind turned blank for a second before she finally asked a little weakly, Are you all right? Yun Qi's entire body boiled up with fury as his hands clenched into tight fists. He abruptly turned to look at Ji Hanfeng as a savage atmosphere burst into existence. Ji Hanfeng. Chapter 959. Exploding rage, Ji Hanfeng used his palm to blast Xianxia away and then quickly rushed over to catch Li Mingcheng. He shivered severely the moment his palms touched Li Mingcheng's body. The tempo of Li Mingcheng's breathing was incredibly chaotic, and it was weakening at an incredibly fast speed. His body was limp and soft as if all of the bones in his body were broken. There was no focus in his pupils, and blood was spilling out from his mouth like crazy, accompanied with by unbearable weak and desperate moan. His whole body was twitching as if he was about to die. On his chest near his heart, there was a shocking dent the size of a bowl. Li Mingcheng charged out from next to Ji Hanfeng. Ji Hanfeng stood the closest to the two of them. Even though he did not have the time to stop Li Mingcheng from attacking Xianxia, he had enough time to stop Xianxia from counterattacking Li Mingcheng. However, he did not do so. Instead, he used this as an opportunity to attack Xianxia as Xianxia struck Li Mingcheng heavily. Because this was a justified action, even if he crippled Xianxia, no one could put the fault on him. But he absolutely did not expect that Li Mingcheng would be this severely injured from Xianxia's attack. Ji Hanfeng's brain went blank all of a sudden, and he felt chills down his spine. He didn't dare to forget even for a second that Li Mingcheng was the main hall master's nephew, so he had been obviously and secretly trying to curry favor with her. Just now, when he took the opportunity to attack Xianxia, it was to avenge him, but he didn't expect, even in his dreams, that Li Mingcheng would be injured to the point of almost dying. With the main hall master's protectiveness towards Li Mingcheng, if the blame fell on him, just thinking about it, Ji Hanfeng was already shivering in fear. But it was too late for him to regret at the moment. He turned around abruptly and unleashed all his anger towards Xianxia. "Xianxia, how dare you attack with such maliciousness? What happened? What are you all doing here in a circle?" At this moment, someone with infinite coldness and dignity suddenly fell from the sky. Following, a blue shadow walked out from the void sky. She had a face like the first snow, shrouded with freezing cold, and beautiful brows shaped like swords. It was precisely Mu Fengshu, the main hall master of Freezing Snow Hall. Her arrival instantly froze the chaotic scene. Mu Fengshu looked around and saw Li Mingcheng in Ji Hanfeng's arms, covered in blood and with his life hanging by a thread. Her expression changed instantly as she shifted in a blue shadow to the front of Li Mingcheng. When her palm landed on Li Mingcheng, her aura that was originally ice-cold and quiet instantly turned chaotic as it released a crazy fury. This was the rage of the main hall master of Freezing Snow Hall. It was as if the entire Freezing Snow main hall had fallen into a freezing purgatory. All of the elements completely stopped flowing, and the faces of everyone in the Freezing Snow main hall turned pale, their bodies curled up from the cold. They could feel their own blood and even their soul freezing, sealed by ice. Who did this? Mu Fengshu turned around, her voice extremely calm, but even the person with the weakest profound strength could clearly feel an extremely freezing, murderous intent. On her territory, her own nephew was actually injured to such an extent. How could she forgive this? Many people slowly turned their gaze towards Xianxia. Mu Sushan's compliment and praise made them feel incredibly jealous earlier, but at this moment, they only felt a deep pity for him. They believed with all their hearts that this time, Xianxia was absolutely going to die, even if Li Mingcheng was the one who ambushed Xianxia first. In reply to main hall master, Ji Hanfeng's teeth were shivering. After he had spoken the first sentence, his heart heaved as he stood up and directly pointed at Xianxia. It's Xianxia. He deliberately injured junior brother Mingcheng heavily and wounded junior brother Mingcheng to this extent. This disciple could not stop it in time and did not think that Xianxia would be this brutal. This disciple could not protect junior brother Mingcheng. It is this disciple's fault. May main hall master punish me heavily. You! Mu Fengshu's focus fell on Xianxia. Only 30% was surprise. More of it was an ice-cold fury and murderous intent. You're lying. Mu Xiaolan unconsciously stood in front of Xianxia and tried to explain. Li Mingcheng was the one who ambushed and tried to backstab Xianxia. Xianxia was only... Quiet! Mu Fengshu shouted sharply and scared Mu Xiaolan into silence. Mu Fengshu was clearly extremely enraged, her chest heaving greatly. Do you take this main hall master for an idiot that you would say something this ridiculous? Xianxia is merely a monarch compared to Mingcheng's cultivation. Why would he have to backstab Xianxia? Main hall master. Mu Sushan walked forward and said, even though Li Mingcheng was indeed injured by Xianxia, it wasn't this simple. Enough! Mu Fengshu's face was darkened like still water. No one dared to breathe under the violent anger which rippled from her body. No matter who it is, no matter what the reason or explanation is, if one dares to heavily injure the nephew of Mu Fengshu on purpose, I will definitely make him pay 10,000 times more. Mu Sushin opened his mouth, but he could only sigh softly. Even though Li Mingcheng was the one who ambushed first, Yun Qi's counterattack was indeed too heavy, and it was a fact that Li Mingcheng was wounded to almost dying. Facing Mu Fengshu, who was in a complete fury, he couldn't help even if he wanted to. He could only send a sound transmission in secret towards Mu Xiaolan. Xiaolan, send a sound transmission to your master immediately. Right now, your master is probably the only one who can save Yun Qi. And she might not even make it in time. Ji Hanfeng, immediately take Yun Qi down. Even though Mu Fengshu was extremely furious with her position, she would not waste time attacking a junior herself. She glanced at Mu Xiaolan. Let's see who dares to stop this. Yes. Ji Hanfeng also wanted to lash out his anger. Hearing the command, he immediately responded, placing Li Mingcheng on the ground and charged directly to grab Yun Qi's throat with his hands. Mu Xiaolan screamed and used her body to shield in front of Yun Qi, but a hand suddenly grabbed her shoulder and pushed her far, far away. Surrounding him was the main hall master of Freezing Snow Hall's rage and murderous intent. Both her strength and position in the entire Divine Ice Phoenix sect was within the highest echelons. If it was someone else, they would have already been so frightened that they would lose control of their legs. However, there was no trace of fear in Yun Qi's eyes. There was only a strong, terrifying atmosphere. Whether it was in the blue pole star, the profound sky continent, or the illusory demon realm, he was an absolute king, an existence that could cover the sky with his single hand and no one dared to wrong him. How could he tolerate such treatment? The anger and murderous intent that he had been suppressing before were all released completely in this moment. He held both of his fists tightly, and his eyes targeted Ji Hanfeng, who was getting closer to him like a starving eagle. He roared in a raspy voice, "If you want to take me down, we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so first. You still dare to resist? You don't know your place." Yun Qi's words made Ji Hanfeng sneer as he flew down from the air towards Yun Qi to take him down. The surrounding aura was directed by his strength and transformed into a storm that was extremely dense in strength, covering Yun Qi's whole body. Even though Li Mingcheng's profound strength was already at the level of the divine way, the pressure that he gave off wasn't nearly close to the aura that Xiaolan Wenchen, who had been killed by Yun Qi, exuded. That's why, even when facing Li Mingcheng, Yun Qi felt no pressure at all. However, the Ji Hanfeng who was in front of him was different. His profound strength was at the 6th level of the divine origin realm. Not only was his aura stronger than Xiaolan Wenchen's, he was obviously stronger than Mu Xiaolan. He was definitely the strongest opponent that Yun Qi had faced in his life. The force that was coming from the sky was incredibly horrifying. This was a power of divine way that completely exceeded the level of strength Li Mingcheng had been capable of. Under this force, his entire body suddenly stiffened, but still reacted according to his will first and transported all of his strength to shield in front of his body. Bang! Yun Qi's whole body was vibrating violently as if he was hit by a meteorite from outer space, and he was thrown off by the shock. Ji Hanfeng stopped, and the sneer on his face became more brutal. He suddenly grabbed toward the direction that Yun Qi had been blasted to, and as his hand motion quickly changed, a blue hexagonal profound formation suddenly appeared on Yun Qi's body that was flying upside down. The instant it appeared, it exploded mercilessly with Yun Qi's body as the medium. SSS! The faces of the profound practitioners, they're all lost color from the shock. Mu Fengshu's order was to take down, so they thought Ji Hanfeng would suppress Yun Qi and seal his profound energy. They didn't expect him to attack so harshly. This way, Yun Qi could very possibly die on the spot. Even if he didn't die, he would be injured severely. Mu Sushin stepped forward suddenly, but the result was already established, so he could only deeply sigh once again. Yun Qi! Mu Xiaolan turned pale from the shock. She rushed over in panic, but just as she got close, she saw Yun Qi holding himself up with one hand and slowly standing up. Everyone's gaze was attracted back to Yun Qi in an instant. Even though Yun Qi was simply standing up, it made all of their pupils dilate, not daring to believe their eyes. Yun Qi's clothes were already torn, and there were 3 wounds that were each half a foot long on both his chest and back, but they had stopped bleeding already. Aside from that, his aura almost hadn't weakened at all, and he hadn't lost any focus from his eyes at all. Instead, there was a viciousness that made one tremble with fear. What? The sneer on Ji Hanfeng's face disappeared, and the expression in his eyes darkened. He was confident that the attack just now would completely cripple Yun Qi. At the very least, it should have crushed over half of the bones in his body. But he actually stood up, and there were only a few wounds that were not even deep. No, he's definitely just forcing himself. It's impossible for him not to be heavily injured. Yun Qi, are you okay? Mu Xiaolan looked at him in startlement and asked with concern. Get out of the way. Yun Qi's gaze was focused on Ji Hanfeng. His appearance was very terrifying at the moment and scared Mu Xiaolan into backing up, not daring to step forth another time. Purgatory? It was as if a volcano exploded from Yun Qi's body. His profound energy instantly increased, and the color of the profound energy also turned a light scarlet color. He lifted both of his hands, and the heaven-smiting Devil Slayer sword fell from the air. It smashed into the ground with an exploding sound that shocked the sky as it stabbed deeply into the divine stone that was paved on the ground of the main hall. Oh! The expression in Mu Sushan's eyes changed drastically. The suppressing aura that Yun Qi was releasing right now was close to the strength of the 5th level of the divine origin realm. Mu Sushan himself mentioned before that Yun Qi hadn't used all of his strength when he beat Li Mingcheng, but he did not expect that Yun Qi's hidden power would be this horrifyingly strong. 5th level of the sovereign profound realm, but it released a power that was equal to 5th level of the divine origin realm. This time, even the expression in Mu Fengshu's eyes changed slightly. Her raging fury was slowly replaced by a shock that was becoming deeper and deeper. This brat, you actually? Facing Yun Qi's force, Ji Hanfeng was already shocked in an indescribable way. Yun Qi didn't say a word. He grabbed the heaven-smiting Devil Slayer sword with both of his hands, jumped high up in the sky, and the vermilion body of the sword created an incredibly dreadful destruction storm as it charged towards Ji Hanfeng. You think you're worthy of being my opponent just like this? Ji Hanfeng, gritting his teeth slightly, roared deeply and also jumped up toward Yun Qi. He actually directly grabbed at Yun Qi's sword. But just as he got close, his expression suddenly changed and a trace of fear flashed deeply in his eyes. This was because the force of the sword was much stronger than he expected. It had even made his soul feel fear. Ji Hanfeng reacted extremely quickly. He retracted his palms with lightning speed. His whole body turned over and somersaulted backwards. The heaven-smiting sword smashed onto the ground that was paved using divine stones, causing it to instantly crack. These cracks quickly spread out like a spider web until they spread out to a distance of about 90 meters. With the body of the sword as the center, a storm created by the heavy sword swept by and blurred everyone's vision for a long period of time. But thankfully, this was the God realm. If it was the profound sky continent, the surrounding 300 meters of space would all have completely collapsed. Chapter 960. Fighting Ji Hanfeng. Yun Qi was like heresy created by the heavens that was sent to the mortal realm. His appearance completely shattered the common knowledge of everyone present. He did that in the profound sky continent, then the illusory demon realm. And now he did the same in the God realm. It was as though Yun Qi's sword had smashed onto the minds of everyone present, causing them to be shocked speechless for a long while. It was already unbelievable that he had defeated Li Mingcheng, but now, his profound strength had explosively increased yet again, and he had used a single strike to force Ji Hanfeng back. Ji Hanfeng was an official disciple of Freezing Snow Hall, and he had cultivated there for around 20 years already. Him being able to supervise Freezing Snow Hall's new disciple examination proved that he was powerful and experienced enough to do so. Yet he had been forced back by the sword of an examinee who was only in the sovereign profound realm. The impact of this scene was indescribable. Almost everyone there felt dazzled, as though they could perhaps be dreaming. Ji Hanfeng, who fled all of a sudden, continued to somersault until he was 300 meters away. When he landed, the heart-thumping sensation he felt before was still there. This shocked him greatly, and at the same time, he felt even more humiliated. He had actually been forced away by the sword of someone he previously viewed as a joke, and now that was the gargantuan joke. But no matter how unwilling and disbelieving he was, he would no longer dare to hold Yun Qi in contempt. It was because the terror of that strike had been right before his eyes. Ji Hanfeng fiercely gritted his teeth. He reached out with a grabbing motion and took out a silver longspear from his spatial ring. The longspear was 9 feet long. Its entire body flickered with frosty silver light. The instant the spear appeared, it was actually accompanied by a resonant dragon roar. "Dragon burst spear!" Several Freezing Snow Hall disciples exclaimed in shock. As an official disciple of Freezing Snow Hall and the supervisor of this examination, he had actually brought out the dragon burst spear. It was evident that Ji Hanfeng was afraid of Yun Qi. "Yun Qi, you are proud of that strike from before, aren't you?" Ji Hanfeng's gaze darkened as his voice carried the sound of him gnashing his teeth in anger. "I'll immediately give it back to you tenfold. No matter how much trash from the lower realms struggles, they will eternally still be trash." As he vented his thoughts, Ji Hanfeng raised the dragon burst spear. He didn't go into the air, but instead walked on the ground, straight as an arrow. With every step he took, it was as though the spear's tip had elongated. Then, amidst a loud roar, his footsteps became heavier as the dragon burst spear pierced at Yun Qi. In that instant, the ground below him had immediately become shattered powder, and the dragon burst spear let out an incredibly resonant dragon roar. It was as though its body had transformed into a silver-colored true dragon as it lunged at Yun Qi with boundless dragon might. Beneath this dragon roar, all the profound practitioners present felt as though all the blood and profound energy in their bodies had been agitated. Their hearts had also suddenly felt like they had shrunk. With Ji Hanfeng added to the dragon burst spear, the might of this spear had actually become this frightening. A thought flashed in the minds of everyone present. How could Yun Qi possibly receive this strike? Yun Qi's brows sunk as the veins on both his arms bulged out. Beneath the might that shocked the entire crowd of profound practitioners, he actually did not retreat at all and had suddenly advanced. The heaven-smiting devil slayer sword directly smashed forth, welcoming the dragon burst spear. Crack! Sword and spear met, and the crackling of metal resounded through the entire freezing snow main hall. With these two people at the core, the divine stone beneath their feet had all been sent flying after being ruptured. The feet of both parties had sunk deep into the ground, yet neither had retreated a single step. Ji Hanfeng firmly gripped the dragon burst spear, and a disbelief that was stronger than the one he previously had surfaced within his gaze. You actually." This spear carried the rage and humiliation he felt for being forced back by Yun Qi's previous strike. Not only had he taken out the dragon burst spear, he had even attacked with full strength and didn't hold back in the slightest because he wanted to smash Yun Qi into dust. However, the spear which held his full power had actually been received by Yun Qi, and this was a direct confrontation without any superficial tricks. "Ha!" As he let out a loud roar, Ji Hanfeng's spear withdrew, and then suddenly shot out in reverse, and Yun Qi's sword also fiercely rose to meet it. Clang, the dragon burst spear, and the heaven-smiting devil slayer sword collided once more. Under a heaven-shaking booming sound, the two parties had been jolted apart by an enormous force. Yun Qi lost his balance, while Ji Hanfeng had actually twisted his body upside down in the sky. An incomparable coldness accompanied the tip of the spear as it swept downward. Snowstorm burial. The heavy sword was naturally not as agile as a spear, and Yun Qi had not completely mastered this newly born heaven-smiting devil slayer sword. Before Yun Qi had time to block using his sword, the spear had already ruthlessly swept over, sending him flying. He forcibly suppressed the churning energy and blood within his body as he slammed the tip of his sword into the ground. He quickly stopped himself amidst the ear-piercing sound of the sword plowing across the ground. At almost the exact same instant he stopped his body, Ji Hanfeng had already flown over from overhead. With the spear resembling a dragon, he directly smashed down. Yun Qi didn't lift his head. Both his arms instantly tripled in size as the bursting sound of joints popping echoed. The heaven-smiting devil slayer sword was swung up at full power, and its catastrophic rumble completely suppressed the dragon burst spear's dragon cry. Even if Yun Qi was not heavily injured, the blood and energy in his body would definitely be in turmoil after being sent flying by Ji Hanfeng's previous spear strike. Since his follow-up attack was as fast as lightning as well, never in his dreams would Ji Hanfeng think that Yun Qi was able to stabilize his body, let alone instantly make a counterattack. This was not all. What met him was a sword might that was not the slightest bit weaker than before. Boom! The ground beneath Yun Qi's feet once again ruptured as both his legs had almost entirely sunk into the floor. Ji Hanfeng, who had the leverage from the air, was like a dead leaf swept up by a gale. He had been sent flipping backwards. Yun Qi did not pursue and make a follow-up attack. Instead, the sword suddenly sunk and struck the ground. It was only after a long while that he raised it up again. His breathing, however, had finally become heavy. Ji Hanfeng heavily landed and fell back a dozen steps with his remaining energy. He looked rather wretched as the energy and blood in his body incessantly churned. However, after seeing Yun Qi's state, he laughed. "So that's it. You are completely relying on that sword. Heh, that sword must be pretty heavy, right? I wonder how many more times you'll be able to lift it." Yun Qi. Ji Hanfeng's words directly targeted Yun Qi's weak point. The disparity between Yun Qi and Ji Hanfeng's profound cultivation was much too great. That was definitely not just a great realm of difference, but the natural chasm of the divine way. Even with the evil god art's exponential growth rate and body strength that surpassed other common folk, it was still not on par with Ji Hanfeng's cultivation at the 6th level of the divine origin realm. It was only with the help of the heaven-smiting devil slayer sword's powerful sword might that he was barely able to enter a temporary stalemate. After hunger had eaten the eternal night devil sword, the might of the heaven-smiting devil sword explosively increased, but that also explosively increased its weight. A weight that reached almost 5 million kilograms was not something the current Yun Qi was able to control. In his normal state, even lifting it was especially difficult. Even under the purgatory state, waving it 30 times was almost his limit, let alone wielding it at full power for the death match before him. Even though he had only attacked 3 times, this had already left both of his arms numb, his breathing ragged. "Let's see how long you're able to continue struggling for." Ji Hanfeng quickly stabilized the energy and blood in his body and flew up. Clang, boom, boom. The ground cracked open and shattered stone flew all over the place as the entire main hall trembled slightly. The sound of sword and spear striking was like the sound of a clock in heaven unceasingly sounding its bell. Each booming sound seemed as though it was pounding on the audience's heart. The faces of every examinee that had just recently passed was already deathly pale. They continuously retreated further and further back. They indistinctly felt that if they did not keep back further, just the sounds of explosions that seemed to contain divine might would give them internal injuries. They could totally accept that Ji Hanfeng was that strong, but Yun Qi was actually strong to such a degree too. They believed that even if they released all the profound energy in their bodies, they wouldn't be able to create such a terrifying might. Yet Yun Qi, with one strike after another, what kind of secret technique was he using, or perhaps, what kind of monster was able to release such a shocking divine might with a body only at the 5th level of the sovereign profound realm, especially those profound practitioners that were in the same group as Yun Qi? Amidst their shock, they all thought back to when they treated Yun Qi as a joke because they had always believed themselves to be stronger. They had even laughed at him several times before, causing them to feel somewhat ashamed. Xiaolan, who had always treated Yun Qi as some lower realm weakling, was stupefied and momentarily left speechless. This was because even she found it hard to receive Ji Hanfeng's full-power dragon burst spear. Yet Yun Qi was receiving it blow after blow. Mu Fengshu's face continuously changed as more and more shock had long since replaced the anger in her heart. At the same time, she had begun to realize that it was Li Mingcheng who had plotted against Yun Qi first. Perhaps it was not just a random remark. "Zhai Mo, what exactly happened earlier? Tell me in full detail." Mu Fengshu suddenly yelled at a freezing snow hall disciple to her right. The heart of the freezing snow disciple named Zhai Mo trembled. He promptly replied, "Main hall master, before in the ice profound realm exam, Yun Qi had obtained first place." Li Mingcheng accused Yun Qi of cheating and proposed an exchange of blows to verify his placement. The result, however, was Li Mingcheng losing. Then, Zhai Mo hesitated, slightly gritted his teeth, and then continued. Then Li Mingcheng suddenly attacked Yun Qi, and his target was even a vital point. He never expected that Yun Qi would issue a counterattack. "Bastard!" Mu Fengshu's complexion darkened as she shouted in rage. Zhai Mo quickly lowered his head. "Main hall master, please calm your anger. No matter the reason, he must pay with his life after daring to injure Mingcheng to such a degree." Mu Fengshu muttered in an incomparably gloomy voice. Boom, yet another explosion sounded as 2 huge currents of power blasted in the sky. The figures of 2 people shot out at the same time from within the eye of the storm. Yun Qi landed far away. His body went soft as the heaven-smiting devil slayer sword heavily pierced the ground. Yun Qi then held up the sword blade, warm sweat torrenting down his entire body as he breathed heavily. After having met Ji Hanfeng's blows 20 consecutive times, his entire body had gone limp under the enormous burden of the heaven-smiting devil slayer sword. Both his arms had completely lost all feeling, and that strike from before was probably the last of the power he was able to dish out. Following his descent, he almost was unable to raise the heaven-smiting Devil Slayer sword once more. Ha! Ha ha! Ji Hanfeng's breathing was also incredibly coarse, and his chest violently heaved. However, the energy he had left far surpassed what Yun Qi could muster. Seeing Yun Qi's current state, his eyes widened as he burst out in wild laughter. Not giving Yun Qi the slightest chance to breathe, he concentrated all of the power he had left into the dragon burst spear, directly aiming for the space between Yun Qi's brows. Oh no, Mu Xiaolan's hands tightened as her expression changed. Because this spear from Ji Hanfeng was shockingly a death blow that gave no way out, and Yun Qi had obviously depleted all his strength. It was impossible for him to receive it this time. As if he had already seen himself skewer Yun Qi, intense pleasure coursed within Ji Hanfeng's heart. And it was at this moment, when the spear head pointed at him, that he saw Yun Qi slowly raise his head to reveal an evil grin. An unknown chill suddenly attacked his soul, causing his entire body to stiffen, causing his movements to slow. Boom! Yun Qi's body suddenly exploded with a current of air. Just as he was about to approach Yun Qi, Ji Hanfeng, who had used all his profound strength in that attack, was violently jolted. He had been directly shaken off by that airwave. After falling back, he raised his head in alarm and saw Yun Qi slowly get up, both hands on the vermilion great sword's hilt. The scarlet profound energy on his body coiled wildly as a terrifying blood color emerged within both his eyes. Beside his ear came Yun Qi's devilish, sinister voice. Since I've already crippled one, I may as well cripple another. Chapter 961, Crippling Another T This Is. Mu Sushin cried out in surprise. If everything that happened previously were to be described as shocking and astonishing, then what he felt now was shock, which caused him to not believe his own eyes. Yun Qi being able to exchange direct blows with Ji Hanfeng more than 20 times with the power of a monarch could be said to be an unprecedented miracle in all of Snow Song realm. Right when he believed that he had seen Yun Qi's limits, Yun Qi's profound energy, which should have weakened, wildly rose once more. Moreover, he had instantly broken through his previous limits, so far that he directly suppressed Ji Hanfeng. Oppressing someone with a profound energy eruption was obviously something Ji Hanfeng had seen before. However, this was his first time seeing such a fiendish, profound energy. His entire state of mind instantly changed to that of fright, as he no longer was able to think about advancing even a single step forward. Under the terror that coursed through his entire body, he involuntarily stepped back. He had never cowered even when he faced the sect's divine soul realm experts every day. Yun Qi once more grabbed the heaven-smiting sword. At this moment, its 5 million kilograms of weight actually felt weightless in his hands. Both his gaze and sword might locked onto Ji Hanfeng. Power that surged from the evil god's profound veins erupted throughout his entire body, once more rushing to his arms and pouring into his blade as it struck down. The hairs on Ji Hanfeng's entire body stood erect beneath this strike. He, who felt humiliated that he didn't dare to receive Yun Qi's strike the first time, no longer felt like receiving this one. Instead, he used all his strength to flee. However, he had been locked in place by its sword force. It felt as though his body weighed a ton. Once he was aware that he wasn't able to escape in his fright, he suddenly turned around and gave a loud roar while crazily pouring all of his power into the dragon burst spear which blocked his front. Bang! As though an asteroid had exploded, an indescribable apocalyptical storm radiated out to the surrounding space. Disciples of Freezing Snow Hall obviously were able to endure it, but those examinees that had just recently passed felt as though they were hit by a heavy hammer. They retreated in panic as those that were close to it were directly sent flying. In the heart of the apocalyptic storm, a large majority of Ji Hanfeng's body had been nailed to the floor. The dragon burst spear in his hands had already been smashed into a ghastly crescent moon shape. Blood cascaded in torrents from the arms he used to lift the dragon burst spear, and even his eyes had been jolted to reveal bursts of wisps of blood. Ji Hanfeng, open your doggy eyes and look carefully. This is the lower realm profound practitioner you have been looking down on and humiliating time and time again. Amidst his deep bellow, the last of Yun Qi's power burst, the enormous booming sound quaking every inch of the freezing snow main hall. And the words Yun Qi had shouted caused many of the surrounding profound practitioners that came from the lower realms to suddenly raise their heads. Their eyes sheened with excitement. The dragon burst spear's answering cry cut off as Ji Hanfeng let out a miserable yell that sounded close to despair. His body crazily cracked the ground, and only after drawing a crack, several tens of meters in the ground, was he finally sent flying, sprinkling the air with bloody stars before tumbling to the ground. He no longer made any more movements as a pool of blood quickly amassed beneath his body. Crash, crash. The broken dragon burst spear fell to the ground one side at a time. Its profound light and dragon aura quickly faded, completely transforming into a dead spear. Even if it was able to be restored, it was absolutely impossible for it to regain its past divine might. Senior Brother Hanfeng? After being stupefied for a long time, many disciples from Freezing Snow Hall finally regained their senses and hurriedly charged toward Ji Hanfeng. It was unknown if he was dead or alive. Bang! The heaven-smiting Devil Slayer sword landed heavily as the frenzied scarlet profound energy on Yun Qi's body instantly dissipated without a trace. He was running on empty as he heavily kneeled down. If not for the support of the heaven-smiting sword, it seemed as though he would have already been laying on the ground. "Ha, little girl, why haven't you come over to help me up?" Yun Qi panted with coarse breaths. He truly was not able to stand up anymore this time. Xiaolan stood there, stunned, as though she had gone stupid. Upon hearing Yun Qi's voice, she dazedly made a sound of response before quickly rushing over. Her movements were stiff as she supported him. At this time, the gaze she used to look at Yun Qi no longer had the various kinds of disdain she had formerly. Instead, a kind of strange expression, as though she was looking at some sort of monster, was present. "Are you okay?" Xiaolan asked, muddled. "Not okay at all. If your master doesn't come now, I really might die," Yun Qi panted heavily. In the previous month, he had been using up a great amount of mental energy to purify Mu Bingyun's flame poison while restoring her vitality. He spent the rest of his time accompanying his women and family, so he didn't have any time to cultivate at all. If he had been able to cultivate within that 1 month, he was confident that he would have been able to win against Ji Hanfeng using the heaven-smiting Devil Slayer sword without opening, rumbling heaven. At present, he had no choice but to forcibly open rumbling heaven, and the result was naturally an unendurable heavy burden. "But master, Xiaolan was so anxious that she was about to start crying. She had already sent Mu Bingyun a ton of consecutive sound transmissions, but had yet to receive a response. To the side, a Freezing Snow Hall disciple who had run over to examine Ji Hanfeng's injuries turned around with a deathly pale face and stammered, "Senior Brother Hanfeng, his meridians have all snapped, and his dantian seems to have been shattered." "What?" Mu Fengshu's gaze swept over, and the others were even more surprised. Those receiving a blow from Yun Qi's heavy sword never came out with light injuries. If they were not able to take it on, they were either dead or crippled. With snapped meridians and a shattered dantian, even if they used a huge amount of power and resources to forcibly save him, he would only be a cripple from now on. Yun Qi beating Li Mingcheng was already a shock that everyone could hardly believe. But now, he had actually beaten Ji Hanfeng, and not only did that strike make him lose, it had directly crippled him. Even the dragon burst spear had been snapped. At this moment, not only was it the examinees, even the official disciples of Freezing Snow Hall birthed deep shock and terror for Yun Qi. "Yun Qi, you really are incredible." Mu Fengshu, who previously couldn't even bother to spare him another glance, was now sweeping her gaze over Yun Qi many times. Her voice was dull without the slightest ounce of feeling, yet it carried a bone-piercing killing intent. "On the first day you arrive in my Ice Phoenix realm, you heavily injure my nephew, and now you've also crippled a disciple of my Freezing Snow Hall. Who is it that gave you such courage to do so?" In her rage, Mu Fengshu suddenly flew up and actually personally acted to arrest Yun Qi. "You can't." Mu Sushan was no longer able to hold back as he quickly shifted to forcibly block Mu Fengshu. "Main Hall Master, you mustn't. You've already seen it with your very eyes. Yun Qi is definitely a talent seen once every 10,000 years. If he enters our divine Ice Phoenix sect, he is equal to 100 million Ji Hanfengs. You mustn't kill him." He sensed that Mu Fengshu personally taking action wasn't anything as simple as just capturing him. She obviously carried killing intent. "HMPH, like I care what kind of talent he is. Everything he has done today simply tells me that he hasn't put my Freezing Snow Hall in his eyes. Why should I spare him?" Mu Fengshu angrily replied. Yun Qi was a talent found only once every 10,000 years. Mu Fengshu was well aware of whether or not this statement was an exaggeration. If Yun Qi had simply come from the lower realms, Mu Fengshu might. Not just might. Just based on the stunning performance he showed today, even if he had heavily injured her nephew, she would still spare him and even nurture him greatly. But he just had to be brought over by Mu Bingyun. Mu Sushan quickly noted, even though Yun Qi's actions are heavy, he was still forced to do so. Whether it is your nephew Li Mingcheng or Ji Hanfeng, they... Silence out of my way. Mu Fengshu's arm made a sweeping motion, blasting Mu Sushan far away. At this time, a person suddenly ran out from the crowd, stood before Yun Qi and stated, Main Hall Master, you can't kill Yun Qi. Li Mingcheng was the one who provoked him first, and even after losing, he mounted a sneak attack. As for Ji Hanfeng, not only has he maliciously ridiculed us lower realm profound practitioners, it was also he who decided to land the first killing blow. We all saw this very clearly, so Main Hall Master must have also clearly seen this too. Both of them only have themselves to blame. Yun Qi only did this in self-defense. He didn't do anything wrong in this respect. You can't kill him. Yun Qi raised his head in shock. He looked at the person in front of him who dared to come out in such a situation, before the angry Mu Fengshu filled with killing intent to plead for him. It was astonishing Feng Mo, the person he somewhat helped during the Snowstorm Realm examination. Before the examination, he was the only one who dared to question the fairness of the exam. The result, however, was him being humiliated by Ji Hanfeng, but he still outstandingly passed both the Snowstorm Realm and Ice Profound Realm trials. Now he was yet again the first one to jump out to plead for Yun Qi, and the person he faced was Freezing Snow Hall's Main Hall Master. Everyone was dumbstruck as they looked at the person blocking Yun Qi's front. Could this person be Yun Qi's sworn friend until death? Or perhaps just a pure idiot? Ha! Mu Fengshu laughed coldly. Today is seriously strange. Even a random rat would dare come out to defy this hall master. No, no. Feng Mo's face was pale. This disciple definitely does not dare to disrespect Main Hall Master. This disciple is only speaking the truth that everyone here has seen. Even though Yun Qi has erred, it is still pardonable. At the very least, he shouldn't die for his crimes. Feng Mo turned around and said in a trembling voice, Brothers and sisters from the lower realms, Ji Hanfeng has humiliated those of us from the lower realms many times before. Yun Qi injuring him earlier could be said to be half sticking up for us. I believe that you all feel at ease and grateful in your hearts. Everyone stand forth. If we all plead for Yun Qi together, Main Hall Master will definitely give way. Once Feng Mo finished speaking, the surroundings were still absolutely silent. Not one person answered, and those profound practitioners from the lower realms that were in the same group had even quietly taken a few steps back, covering their figures behind the crowd. Feng Mo's face gradually stiffened and then fell in despair. After that, however, he got angry and roared, Do you all hear me? Have you all gone deaf? Those of you that have ascended from the lower realms should all be fearless individuals. Don't tell me that you've all gone soft after coming here. The crowd was silent. Not one person answered yet again. The echo of a few Freezing Snow Hall disciples' snorts and sneers would occasionally be heard. Heh, Mu Fengshu sneered. Since you're that desperate to be buried along with Yun Qi, this hall master will fulfill your wish. Mu Fengshu flew out. Her hands made a grasping motion as a current of heavenly frosty might fell down. Ding. The light sound of crystals colliding resonated as the center of the main hall suddenly filled with a dreamlike, fantastical azure light. Beneath the glow, Mu Fengshu's figure stopped, and then was heavily brushed away by a gentle wind. She flew in reverse, and when she landed, her body slightly rocked as her expression also suddenly changed. A snow-white figure slowly descended from high above, its waistband fluttering in the air. A peerlessly beautiful snowy face that could overturn worlds appeared, and even caused the surrounding light to lose its splendor. A pure, clean, frosty aura lightly enveloped everyone's souls, causing them to become stupefied. It was as though a fairy had landed in the mortal realm. Chapter 962, Ice Phoenix Palace Master, Master. Mu Xiaolan shouted in pleasant surprise when she saw the celestial figure fluttering down from up above. Palace Master, Bingyun, a Freezing Snow Hall disciple softly exclaimed. Upon hearing the name Palace Master Bingyun, all of the surrounding new disciples widened their eyes. To profound practitioners born in the Snow Song Realm, Ice Phoenix Realm's 36 Ice Phoenix Palace Masters were figures of legend. Never did they expect themselves to be fortunate enough to see an Ice Phoenix Palace Master on the day they were about to become a member of Freezing Snow Hall, Mu Bing. Yun! Mu Fengshu raised her head, her brows pinching together as deep shock and incredibility surfaced in her eyes. 1,000 years ago, her cultivation was much weaker than Mu Bingyun's. Within those 1,000 years, however, under the flame poison's erosion, not only was it possible for Mu Bingyun to die at any given moment, her profound strength had also weakened to not even 1/10 of her original power. During these 1,000 years, Mu Fengshu worked night and day to progress in her cultivation. Though she still was not on par with the Mu Bingyun of 1,000 years ago, she had grown to the point where she could easily defeat the flame-poisoned Mu Bingyun. However, that streak of azure light, which lacked any form of an attacking property, had actually completely sealed all of her power. In order to do that, Mu Bingyun's profound strength had to at least be higher than hers by half a great realm. So when Mu Fengshu saw that the one who came was Mu Bingyun, she couldn't believe her eyes. As though she was supported by a gentle breeze, Mu Bingyun landed lightly, standing beside Yun Qi and Mu Xiaolan. Her appearance was like the emergence of a shining soft glow of light. The fear everyone felt because of Mu Fengshu's anger and killing intent had now quietly disappeared without a trace. What replaced it was an indescribable warmth and peace. It even seemed that they no longer felt the icy suppression released by Mu Fengshu. Those that remained in the main hall were mostly examinees that had recently passed. This was basically the first time they had seen Freezing Snow Hall's main hall master, and it was also the first time they had seen a rumored Ice Phoenix Palace master. However, though it was just for an instant, they had clearly felt the great disparity between a Freezing Snow Hall master and an Ice Phoenix Palace master. Mu Fengshu made them feel reverence, but what they felt more was fear. Mu Bingyun, who had descended from the sky, made them feel as though they were looking at a saintly celestial goddess they should not approach or desecrate. They could only worship her. Whether it was her face, aura, or figure, all of them had thrown Mu Fengshu deep into a quagmire. "Phew, that's great," Mu Sushan lightly exhaled. When he sensed Mu Bingyun's aura, his face revealed deep shock. The current Mu Bingyun no longer looked as frail or ill as she formerly was. His gaze became dazed, as though he was once more looking at the gentle and mighty palace master Bingyun from 1,000 years ago. Mu Bingyun glanced at Yun Qi, then shifted her gaze and softly noted, "Mu Fengshu, as Freezing Snow Hall's main hall master, you actually took action against a junior. Are you not afraid of losing your dignity?" HMPH. Even though Mu Fengshu was shocked, how could she possibly lessen her imposingness in front of Mu Bingyun? "Mu Bingyun, you're actually trying to question me. The person you brought back heavily injured my nephew first, then severely injured an outstanding disciple of my Freezing Snow Hall into a crippled state, right in front of me. Such audacity is unforgivable. In all these years, I have yet to see anyone dare behave so atrociously in my Freezing Snow Hall. He simply did not put my Freezing Snow Hall in his eyes, and that is no different from courting death. Not only does he have to die today, he has to give me an explanation." "No, that's not what happened at all," Mu Xiaolan quickly voiced. "It was obviously—" "Xiaolan, you don't have to explain." Mu Bingyun's soft voice interrupted Mu Xiaolan's explanation. "I had already arrived here before the Ice Profound Realm examination ended. I saw everything that happened afterwards with my own eyes." "Ah!" Mu Xiaolan was instantly dumbstruck, while Yun Qi, who was leaning against her, was chuckling inwardly. "Mu Fengshu." Mu Bingyun's voice was as soft as a gentle willow, yet it carried a dignity that made one hold their breath. "You are well aware of who is in the right and who is in the wrong regarding today's matter. Even though Yun Qi has done wrong, he has yet to reach the point where your Freezing Snow Hall has to punish him. Yun Qi, there is no need for you to enter Freezing Snow Hall. From now on, I will accept you as an official disciple of Ice Phoenix Palace. You will join my 36th palace." After she said that, she extended a pure white hand and gently stroked Yun Qi's shoulder. Following the flash of a blue light, a sky-blue jade was embedded onto the front of Yun Qi's shoulder. The sky-blue color was the Ice Phoenix engraved jade, which proved that he was an Ice Phoenix Palace disciple. Distinctly engraved on top of it was the name Yun Qi. The main hall went so quiet that even the drop of a needle could be heard. The only sound that could be heard was the gulping sound made by many throats. Extremely envious gazes rigidly locked onto the Ice Phoenix engraved jade on Yun Qi's shoulder. Being able to enter Freezing Snow Hall was already so difficult that it would bring honor to their ancestors. As for Ice Phoenix Palace, that was a divine palace almost none of them dared to dream of entering. Being able to enter Ice Phoenix Palace required one to enter the divine soul realm before the age of 40 to qualify to participate in the examination. And that was only being able to qualify for the examination. Concessions like Xiaolan, who had entered the divine origin realm below the age of 20, were very few in number. As for someone in the sovereign profound realm entering Ice Phoenix Palace, that had never happened before in all of its history. If this was randomly heard by anyone, they would all think that it was a huge joke. However, though they were shocked, almost nobody on the scene felt that this was unacceptable, because they had all seen that Xianxia was able to inflict serious injuries on 3rd level of the divine origin realms Li Mingcheng, and 6th level of the divine origin realms Ji Hanfeng with power at the sovereign profound realm. Even though his profound strength was far from Ice Phoenix Palace's standards, with his incredibly innate talent, he was definitely qualified to join it. It was also after witnessing Xianxia's performance today that Mu Bingyun was no longer stressed about letting him join Ice Phoenix Palace. Yes, Xianxia answered after glancing at his own Ice Phoenix engraved jade. Mu Bingyun, you actually. Facing Mu Bingyun, who had suddenly become strong after being weak for 1,000 years, Mu Fengshu was somewhat at a loss. It has been 1,000 years, Mu Bingyun lamented pensively. None would know what kinds of changes had happened unless they felt it for themselves. Mu Fengshu, I was well aware of what you thought and did all those years. I always thought that I owed you, so I never exposed or investigated anything. Even though the great realm king wished to punish you, I would obstruct her for you. Mu Fengshu suddenly lifted her head, her gaze full of shock. Many years have passed, and the debt I owed you has already been repaid. I will no longer owe you from now on. The great realm king has long found a purification method for the flame poison in my body, and I have completely recovered. More than half my profound strength has been restored, and I will soon revive the 36th Ice Phoenix Palace. If you want an explanation, you can come over to the 36th Ice Phoenix Palace to find me. Also, if sinister deeds surface once more after today, I will no longer feign ignorance. I won't forgive them. When Mu Bingyun's voice fell, her icy eyes that had been watching Mu Fengshu the entire time flashed with a deep blue light. This flash of blue light appeared for a split second, but Mu Fengshu felt as though she had been struck by lightning. She retreated in panic as her complexion instantly went pale. Her pupils enlarged and her lips gaped, but she was rendered speechless for a long time. 1,000 years of silence and illness caused the members of Divine Ice Phoenix sect to slowly forget that she was the strongest, most prestigious and highest-ranked Ice Phoenix Palace Master, and had received the most admiration and respect of all the disciples of the sect. At that time, Mu Fengshu had always been respectful before her and would never do anything rash. Furthermore, she had respected her from the bottom of her soul. Within her violently shivering eyes, she clearly saw that the palace master Bingyun that had been silent for a millennium had returned. Xiaolan Xianxia, let's go. Mu Bingyun turned around. Yes, master, Mu Xiaolan happily replied while shedding tears of emotion. Ah, wait. Xianxia grabbed at Mu Xiaolan's little hand and didn't forget to feel its soft, smooth, snowy skin. He said rather seriously, even though I don't have to enter freezing snow hall, I should take the rewards that belong to me. I had obtained them with great difficulty after all. That jade-fallen ice soul pellet and that Starpiker stone, Mu Bingyun's celestial figure paused and she remained silent. Mu Xiaolan slapped away his obviously dishonest hand. Ha 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 ha! Mu Sushan erupted in loud laughter, seeming to be in an extremely good mood. You're right, the rewards that belong to you naturally cannot be left behind. Mu Sushan made a grabbing motion, and the jade-fallen ice soul pellet fluttered over from Ji Hanfeng's body before landing in his grasp. Together with the Starpiker stone, he pushed both toward Xianxia. The jade-fallen ice soul pellet and Starpiker stone arrived before Xianxia and stopped, as though they were gently being supported by an invisible object. Upon sensing their existence at close range, Xianxia's mind churned and exclaimed in surprise. Whether it was their radiance or aura, they were far above what the profound sky continent and illusory demon realm possessed. Xianxia carefully received them, storing them into the sky poison pearl, and respectfully said, "Thank you, Senior Sushan." "No need to thank me, this is what you deserve," Mu Sushan said with a chuckle. Then he shot Mu Bingyun a profound look. "Palace Master Bingyun, congratulations. It seems like the flourishing of the 36th Ice Phoenix Palace is imminent." Mu Bingyun nodded and then took to the air, bringing Mu Xiaolan and Xianxia along as she left. Feng Mo, this is my sound transmission imprint. If you encounter any kind of problem you can't solve in freezing snow hall, you can try sending me a transmission. Yun Qi's sound transmission suddenly rang by the ear of Feng Mo, who sent Yun Qi off with a complex expression. His entire body jolted as his expression stormed for a long while. Yun Qi had already exhausted all his energy, so he was incapable of taking flight by himself. However, a gentle breeze that came from Mu Bingyun carried him along, causing him to feel very comfortable. After exiting the freezing snow main hall, Mu Xiaolan still had not regained her senses. She continued to stare at Yun Qi. So you were actually this powerful. Of course, Yun Qi said rather smugly. Do you now realize how dangerous it was when you kidnapped Senior Master Murong back then? Good thing you were rather obedient and quickly released her. Otherwise, I would have stripped you of your clothes and thrown you into the snow. Why you? Mu Xiaolan's little face immediately flushed. The little bit of admiration she felt for Yun Qi instantly obliterated. Master, look at him. As expected, he's just a lowly bad person. He hasn't changed at all. Mu Bingyun helplessly shook her head and reproached softly. Yun Qi, Xiaolan is still young and pure. Don't say such explicit things to her. Oh, hateful. Mu Xiaolan gave him a furious glare and then did her best to put some distance between her and Yun Qi. She then said with seething anger, even though you are more powerful than what I originally imagined, you're too stupid and impulsive. It's not as though you didn't know Li Mingcheng's identity. It's fine if you defeated him, but why did you have to injure him so heavily? Ji Hanfeng too. If not for Master quickly coming in time, you definitely would have lost your life. He wasn't exactly being impulsive. Before Yun Qi had a chance to reply, Mu Bingyun had already softly answered. Even though Yun Qi was angry, he never lost his rationality. From the very start, he never revealed the flames he specialized in. As for the reason why he dared to inflict such heavy injuries on Li Mingcheng and Ji Hanfeng, that is because he had long sensed that I was there. Ah, Mu Xiaolan couldn't understand. How is it possible for Yun Qi to have sensed Master's aura? Even Hall Master Fengshu and Senior Sushin didn't notice a thing. Chapter 963, God-Burying Inferno Prison, Ancient Horned Dragon, you have to ask him about it, Mu Bingyun replied. When Yun Qi left the ice-profound realm, he glanced at the place where I was hidden quite a number of times. At first, I thought that it was just a coincidence, but after several more times, added to the fact that his gaze was excessively unrestrained, the only explanation I could find was that he had known I was there all along. He, Yun Qi laughed. Actually, Fairy Mu's body still has traces of the escape, cough, 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 cough. Traces of the medicinal aura remain after I purified the flame poison from your body. This kind of aura may be unperceivable to anyone else, but I am extremely sensitive to it. That was why I knew you were there. The Sky Poison Pearl's purification power was originally formless, colorless, and auraless. No one would be able to sense it, aside from Yun Qi, who had fused with the Sky Poison Pearl. Mu Xiaolan opened her mouth yet remained speechless. So that's the case. Understanding dawned on Mu Bingyun, and then she looked before her. The 36th Ice Phoenix Palace is located in the Ice Phoenix City north of freezing Snow City. You originally could have came here via profound teleportation formation, but since this is your first time here, I brought you here via flight so you can somewhat familiarize yourself with the land here. Master, you're so nice to this bad guy here, Mu Xiaolan said in a small voice, distinct jealousy in her voice. Freezing Snow City was enormous. Not only were there 108 freezing snow halls, there were numerous places for cultivation, training, healing, meditation, and going into seclusion. Mu Bingyun traveled extremely fast, but she still used a long time to fly through freezing Snow City. The further north she traveled, the colder the air became. It was also there that the ice-cold suppression which always existed became even more heavy and endless. The outline of Ice Phoenix City then gradually emerged in their field of view. It was also at this time that the sound of thunderous laughter suddenly came from the distant south. Ha 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 ha, Yan Mocking has come to pay a visit and asked to meet Snow Song's Realm King. I wish to discuss a favorable, long-lasting event between our two realms. I earnestly wish for the Snow Song Realm King to grant my request of meeting each other. This burst of laughter obviously echoed from a faraway place, yet it boomed like world-destroying thunder beside one's ears. It jolted Yun Qi's vision into a field of black as the blood in his entire body boiled with surging chaos. His chest felt even more suppressed as he nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. AHHHHH! Mu Xiaolan covered her eyes, shrieking in her fright. This loud roar shockingly covered the enormous Ice Phoenix realm. Space slightly trembled as the aura below suddenly changed. Countless numbers of divine Ice Phoenix sect disciples had all come out in full force, as though they were facing a huge enemy. "Fairy Mu, what is going on here?" Once this voice fell, it no longer continued echoing, but Yun Qi's dizziness and discomfort didn't go away for a long time. He was greatly shocked. Mu Bingyun's celestial figure stood still, her crescent brows slightly knitted. However, her expression and aura were still rather tranquil. "It is a sound transmission that has come from over 15,000 kilometers. It looks like they do not dare tread within the core area of our divine Ice Phoenix sect." "Oh, over 15,000 kilometers!" Yun Qi was so shocked that he nearly bit his tongue. With a distance of over 15,000 kilometers, he had nearly been jolted to the point of puking blood by a voice. "Why, the FCK is the god realm filled with so many monsters. You don't have to be that shocked," Mu Bingyun stated. "That Yan Mocking is not any ordinary character but the Flame God Realm's Vermilion Bird Sect Master. Saying that he is the #1 person in all of the Flame God Realm may not be an exaggeration. Flame God Realm? Vermilion Bird Sect Master." Mu Bingyun slightly waved her snowy hand, and an icy radiance enveloped Mu Xiaolan. It was only then that Mu Xiaolan's condition gradually improved. Mu Bingyun turned around, then began to lift Yun Qi and Mu Xiaolan up again, once more flying to the north. "He has come looking for the Realm King. Letting the Realm King deal with this is fine, we don't need to bother with it." "Oh." Yun Qi nodded, then after some consideration he asked in a small voice, "Fairy Mu, from the looks of it, you seem to know why this Yan Mocking has come here for." "Why else?" Mu Xiaolan asked, looking especially furious. "He's definitely here for that horned dragon again." "That horned dragon. What horned dragon?" Yun Qi asked with great curiosity. Mu Bingyun did not conceal it and directly answered. "Although the climates of the Flame God Realm and our Snow Song Realm are opposing attributes, we are rather close neighbors. The formation of the Flame God Realm is due to a primordial flame vein. It is because of this flame vein that the density and activeness of the flame attribute in the Flame God Realm is extremely high. Its temperature also surpasses the level of what ordinary people can bear. But it is nevertheless a paradise for the successors of fire attribute bloodlines, fire attribute profound beasts, and those who cultivate fire attribute profound arts. The flame vein's core region is huge sea of fire that extends close to 500,000 kilometers, named the God-Burying Inferno Prison. God-Burying Inferno Prison. Yun Qi's brows twitched. Why does it feel like I've heard that name somewhere? The Flame God Realm's flame vein and the God-Burying Inferno Prison it created had already existed before the Flame God Realm was formed. This also means that it was left behind during the ancient time of gods. The people of the Flame God Realm held the flame veins and God-Burying Inferno Prison in unparalleled reverence, and they had never stopped exploring the God-Burying Inferno Prison. They always believed that there must be a miracle somewhere at the bottom of God-Burying Inferno Prison that could transform the Flame God Realm in its entirety. However, the God-Burying Inferno Prison is a remnant of the ancient time of gods. It isn't something that mortals could conquer at all. Not even the 3 great sect masters who succeeded the Flame God Realm generation after generation were able to reach the bottom of God-Burying Inferno Prison all this time. "The 3 great sect masters?" Yun Qi asked doubtfully. "Then, what about their Realm King?" "Of course there are no Realm Kings in the Flame God Realm." Mu Xiaolan curled her lips in great disdain. "They set up a rule that states that anyone who can reach the bottom of God-Burying Inferno Prison would become the Flame God Realm's Realm King. That's why the Flame God Realm never had a Realm King, although hundreds of thousands of years had passed by. As a result, internal strife and conflicts for power often happen whenever they're discussing important matters. HMPH serves them right. Oh, it seems that their obsession to conquer God-Burying Inferno Prison is almost faith-like," Yun Qi said, touching his chin. There was no doubt that their obsession ran deep, considering that they weren't willing to break this rule, even though they hadn't had a Realm King for hundreds of thousands of years. "So what's with that horned dragon?" "It's an ancient horned dragon that lives inside the God-Burying Inferno Prison." "Ancient." This word jolted Yun Qi and caused some level of comprehension to enter his mind. The Flame God Realm's earliest records on this ancient horned dragon date back 600,000 years. This also means that it has lived for at least 600,000 years. You can just imagine that even its beard must be an ultimate treasure one is hard-pressed to find even in 100 lifetimes. Whoever hunts it will gain unimaginable profit. I see. Xianxia nodded slowly. So you've understood the situation roughly? Mu Bingyun looked back and asked. Xianxia nodded. The fact that this horned dragon has a lifespan over 600,000 years old means that it must be unbelievably powerful. The flame god realm couldn't kill it at all even if they were to employ all their strength. Also, the flame god realm all cultivate fire attribute profound art, and this ancient horned dragon could only be a flame dragon since it lives inside the god-burying inferno prison. Although the flame god realm had a great advantage when they defend themselves against this ancient horned dragon's attacks, their own flame powers would be largely ineffective on this ancient horned dragon too. The most effective power against a flame-type living being like this is naturally ice. That is why Flame God Realm wishes to borrow Snow Song Realm's power. Mu Bingyun smiled faintly. You are as smart as I thought. However, wrinkles appeared on Xianxia's forehead. Since that ancient horned dragon lives inside the god-burying inferno prison, it absolutely can slip back into the prison if it encounters any danger. You are correct. It is an invincible entity inside the god-burying flame prison, Mu Bingyun explained. Normally, it almost never leaves the god-burying flame prison, but it is a dragon after all. Every 1,000 years, it would shed its old scales and grow new ones. During this period, it has to move out from the god-burying inferno prison, and so this is the one and only chance for us to kill it in 1,000 years. After understanding that they will never manage to hunt down the dragon with their own strength, Flame God Realm thought of borrowing Snow Song Realm's power and promised to split half the spoils with the Snow Song Realm after the hunt succeeded. Mu Bingyun recalled something and sighed quietly when she said this. HMPH, those despicable bastards, how dare they show their faces a second time? Mu Xiaolan said angrily. Back then, the great realm king and master had gone over to help them out in goodwill, but those bastards. I can't believe that they dare show their thick faces in the Snow Song Realm again. The Realm King will definitely teach them a lesson. Xianxia looked moved. The ancient horned dragon of the god-burying fire prison was said to change its scales once every 1,000 years. The fact that Flame God Realm's people had sought out the Snow Song's Realm King meant that it was about to change its scales again. This also meant that the last attempt to hunt it was 1,000 years ago, the time Mu Bingyun had suffered from the fatal flame poison, and escaped to the profound sky continent was also 1,000 years ago. In that case, the flame poison and ambush fairy Mu suffered from happened 1,000 years ago when you went to the flame god realm to aid them in hunting down the ancient horned dragon, Xianxia asked. Yeah, Mu Xiaolan's face was red all the way down to her neck when she thought of the pain her master had suffered all these years. This matter cannot be explained in one sitting. Mu Bingyun's eyes were deep. Xianxia had always noticed that Mu Bingyun was never grudgeful about her misfortune during the time he purified the flame poison in her. Even when the matter was brought up now, he still couldn't see anything resembling hatred in her eyes. It was instead filled with indescribably complex emotions. Mu Xiaolan was the one who looked like she had met her father's murderer instead. After all, it is elder sister's fault for severely injuring his son by accident. Mu Bingyun's voice was cool as she muttered seemingly to herself. Xianxia sounds pretty complicated, but it is pretty exciting to hear this as an insignificant and complete outsider. Anything is fine as long as the battle of gods does not affect the lives of little mortals like us. That ancient horned dragon is extremely dangerous. Its breath is extremely poisonous and its blood is extremely toxic. It is almost certain death to come in contact with either of them. That dragon is very dangerous. Mu Bingyun paused for a moment before continuing. The flame poison I was inflicted with was in fact the poison in the horned dragon's breath. However, although the horned dragon was scary, it wasn't impossible to hunt it down. Last time, if it wasn't for that incident, we may have succeeded already. That is why I wasn't surprised that the Flame God Realm has come to look for us again. The Great Realm King wouldn't be surprised either. Furthermore, I doubt that the Great Realm King would turn them down since the ancient horned dragon is pretty tempting. Apparently feeling that she had said more than she should, Mu Bingyun shook her head slightly and stopped talking. The large palace made from ice crystals in front of them was close right now, and the cold air and world spirit energy in this place was at least twice as thick than it was at freezing Snow City. We have arrived at our Ice Phoenix Palace. Let's go down. Mu Bingyun changed her hand gesture slightly and took Yuanqi and Mu Xiaolan down to the ground. Author's note: dragon breath. Dragon's breath, specifically the breath that a dragon spits out. Mainly divided into air and a dragon's saliva. All right, in fact, it's just a dragon's saliva. Chapter 964, 36th Ice Phoenix Palace. The area within Ice Phoenix City was especially vast. It looked boundless at first glance. The 36 Ice Phoenix Palaces towered here, each and every one of them different. The atmosphere was silent. The ice-cold spiritual suppression seemed to have completely frozen everything in the world. The 36th palace was located at the heart of Ice Phoenix City's southern district. Although it was a palace, its interior was as large as a lower realm city. Once he entered, Yuanqi still sensed the same coldness and spiritual suppression. It was also extremely desolate as well. "This is the 36th palace you'll be living in from now on," Mu Bingyun said to Yuanqi. "It is 150 kilometers wide and around 20 kilometers tall, but the space within is far larger than what you see here." The space within is far larger than what I see here. That phrase confused Yuanqi. Since you are now a disciple of Ice Phoenix Palace, you may freely travel within Ice Phoenix City, Freezing Snow City and Snowfall City. You are also able to use any teleportation formation available. However, Ice Phoenix Palaces are relatively independent of one another, so unless you have obtained their permission, you are not allowed to enter them at will. "Oh," Yuanqi nodded. "Hey, what kind of response is that?" Mu Xiaolan asked in dissatisfaction. "In our Snow Song realm, just being able to enter an Ice Phoenix Palace is something countless profound practitioners wouldn't even dare dream about. Even if their innate talent is high, those who are qualified to enter still have to undertake a really hard examination. Someone like you who has been directly appointed an Ice Phoenix Palace disciple by an Ice Phoenix Palace master is really, really rare, you know. It's good luck that you can't even cultivate using 10,000 lifetimes. And you actually act like it's only right for you to get in." Yuanqi looked at her, then nodded again. "Oh, got it." Mu Xiaolan couldn't breathe for a moment as her face flushed red from anger. Mu Bingyun had long since gotten accustomed to them fighting with each other, so she just ignored them. Those who enter Ice Phoenix Palace can be bestowed the surname Mu. Since you are now an Ice Phoenix Palace disciple, you naturally have that right as well. The surname Mu is exclusive to our divine Ice Phoenix sect. Taking Mu as your surname will give you great benefits and make it easier for you inside the Ice Phoenix realm and even the entire Snow Song realm. Mu Bingyun turned around. Xiaolan's original name was Sidulanlin. Mu Xiaolan was the name I personally bestowed upon her. In that case, what do you think about me giving you the name Mu Xiaolan? Mu Xiao, Yun. Number %. Even though Yuanqi did his best to restrain himself, he couldn't control the muscles in his forehead, his veins, and the corner of his mouth as they continuously twitched. He lowered his head, maintaining a respectful pose, and said with a resolute voice, "I thank Fairy Mu for the name, but I still like my current name, so, that's fine." Mu Bingyun didn't exactly push for it, nor did she think it strange as she nodded her head. "A stupid idiot who doesn't know what's good for him," Mu Xiaolan muttered in disdain. Being granted the surname Mu was a supreme honor within the Snow Song realm. Even if a country's emperor were to be bestowed the surname Mu, they would be overwhelmed by the favor. Yuanqi, a country bumpkin from the lower realms, actually rejected it. Yuanqi rolled his eyes at Mu Xiaolan as he complained inwardly. Even though Fairy Mu Bingyun is so beautiful, possesses an ice lotus elegance, and has such a high status and divine power in the god realm, her naming sense is just simply tragic. Mu Xiaolan, they sounded like pet names for children no matter how he heard them. Don't tell me that the other disciples here are this disgusting. Other disciples. Yuanqi earnestly tried to sense the auras in the surroundings and then asked, "Fairy Mu, why is it this quiet here? Where are the other disciples? How could there be any other disciples?" Mu Xiaolan curled her lips. "It has only been me and Master here. Now we have an additional baddie in our midst. No other disciples?" Yuanqi was stunned at first, but he then thought about Mu Bingyun's state during all these years and slowly understood. Xiaolan has been the only disciple in the 36th Ice Phoenix Palace these past years. You are the second, and I have not taken in any disciples for several hundred years before this. Mu Bingyun gently sighed. With my body afflicted with poison, my health slowly deteriorated during these 1,000 years. I passed every day knowing that I could possibly lose my life, so I simply didn't have the strength to support an Ice Phoenix Palace. However, the Great Realm King was not willing to let me lose my status as an Ice Phoenix Palace Master, and stubbornly helped me retain my position. It was also from then on that the 36th Palace no longer recruited any disciples. As a result, in all these years, though there were still 36 Ice Phoenix Palaces in name, the truth was that there were actually only 35. Even me accepting Xiaolan as a disciple was an accident. The other Ice Phoenix Palaces all have around 3,000 disciples, 2 Vice Palace Masters, and a dozen or so instructors, but I don't envy them one bit. Xiaolan's gaze flickered, because I was able to always be by Master's side and have Master all to myself. The other Ice Phoenix Masters are all cold and stiff, and they're all so scary, but Master is always this nice and gentle. HMPH, Yunqi, let me say this. You aren't allowed to take Master from me. You can't possibly win against me because the relationship between Master and I has existed for so many years. Yunqi. Mu Bingyun smiled as she shook her head. Fairy Mu, now that you are free from the flame poison, your profound strength and vitality will completely recover after a while. At that time, are you going to receive new disciples to revive the 36th palace? Yunqi asked. Mu Bingyun actually shook her head. At the moment, I don't have that kind of plan. My temperament has become mild after all these years, and I have become accustomed to quiet. Let's see in a few more years. Yunqi had long sensed that Mu Bingyun's temperament was exceptionally mild. He possessed a ton of odd, to the point of incomprehensibility, things. For example, his profound arts, his ice and fire combination, the heaven-smiting sword he revealed today, and even the fact that he possessed the sky-poison pearl. All these would cause any ordinary person's desire to investigate into further detail. Yet Mu Bingyun had never asked about them. If she ever asked any question, as long as Yunqi showed even the slightest of hesitation, she would never pursue any further. This was definitely not the temperament any normal person would possess. Or this was perhaps caused by her circumstances during those 1,000 years, which made her indifferent and able to see through many things. Yunqi, I have already talked to the Great Realm King about your situation. Once the reason why he had come to the God Realm was mentioned, Yunqi's mind instantly focused. Mu Bingyun slowly said, the Great Realm King has agreed to bring you to the Profound God Convention's meeting area. However, she explicitly stated that bringing you to the area is already the limits of what she can do. Whether or not you are able to see that person will depend on your good fortune. All right. Yunqi nodded somewhat excitedly. I thank Fairy Mu and the Great Realm King for your assistance. No need for thanks, Mu Bingyun gently shook her head. You saved my life, so it is only right for the Great Realm King to consent to this. At the moment, there are still 30 months until the Profound God Convention begins. What do you plan on doing during this period of time? The reason why I have accepted you as a disciple of Ice Phoenix Palace is mainly so that it's easier for me to help you without restricting your freedom. Yunqi pondered, then said calmly, this world's spiritual energy far surpasses my previous worlds. I won't waste the chance to cultivate here during the 30 months I have to wait until the Profound God Convention. I will leave after that. Thus, during the period of time that I'm here, I will be concentrating on my cultivation and will not make contact with the outside world as much as possible, lest some more trouble appears. Mu Xiaolan opened her mouth and was about to say something but then hesitated. That's good too, Mu Bingyun nodded. There are 5,000 cultivation rooms and 5,000 living rooms. Aside from Xiaolan's room, all of them are unused, available for you to pick at will. Everything that you've done today will surely travel fast. At that time, there will be many people who will come over to check you out. Since you don't want to make contact with outsiders, I will help you obstruct them, so don't hesitate to cultivate in peace. All right, Yunqi immediately replied. Mu Xiaolan dazedly looked at Mu Bingyun with an opened mouth. There are a few palaces at the city's center. You can select all sorts of ice attribute profound arts to comprehend in Sacred Scripture Palace, but I suppose you aren't interested in those. Sacred Artifact Palace is where you can pick a weapon of your choice, and Sacred Jade Palace is where you can go obtain your allocation of 5,000 purple stones and natural resources every month just using your Ice Phoenix engraved jade. Ah, purple stone. What's that? Yunqi asked. Profound Power Stone. Mu Bingyun explained, based on the levels of strength and purity, they are separated into purple stones, purple crystals, and purple jade from bottom up. Absorbing power from these profound power stones can assist you in your cultivation. However, due to their low level, there is no way for them to help you make a breakthrough. They are mostly used to make profound formations, profound talismans, profound arcs, profound ships, and similar type power sources. At the same time, they are also the type of currency the God realm uses. Common currency. Xianxia instantly understood. These types of profound power stones all weigh 50 grams. 1,000 purple stones can be exchanged for 1 purple crystal. 1,000 purple crystals can be converted into 1 purple jade. Mu Bingyun glanced at Xianxia. You probably have never heard of purple jade, but you definitely have seen purple stones and purple crystals before. Purple stones are what your profound sky continent call purple-veined heaven crystals, and purple crystals are called purple-veined divine crystals. Xianxia was instantly stunned. The purple-veined heaven crystals that the profound sky continent views as a sacred object was actually only the lowest-level profound power stone in the God realm. An ordinary disciple of Ice Phoenix Palace was able to receive 5,000 purple stones every month. This was 250,000 grams. 250 kilograms of purple-veined heaven crystal. In a year, that would be 3,000 kilograms of purple-veined heaven crystal, which could be converted into 3 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystal. If the first-rate sects within the profound sky continent heard this, they would die from the shock alone. When she saw Xianxia's state, Mu Bingyun said, "You've consumed too much energy today, and it seemed as if it has at last affected your vitality. Go pick out a room of your choice and take a rest. If you need something, you can use your engraved jade to send a transmission to me or Xiaolan." All right. Forcibly opening, rumbling heaven gave him an immense burden, and even now his body ached with intense pain. Beneath this stress, he had even begun to shake after only standing there for a short while. Also, since you have now entered Ice Phoenix Palace, you will have to address me as Palace Master and address Xiaolan as Senior Sister Xiaolan. You must not be too rude. Yes, Palace Master, Senior Sister Xiaolan. Senior Sister's just Senior Sister. It's not as though saying it would cut off a piece of my flesh. HMPH, that's just about right. Mu Xiaolan was finally somewhat satisfied. Mu Bingyun gently nodded before turning around. Xiaolan, accompany me to the first palace. Right when she was about to leave, Mu Bingyun suddenly paused yet again. She turned her head. Xianxia, the Starpicker stone you obtained today is a divine stone that will absorb light daily. It will greatly benefit you whether you are using it to cultivate or heal. Furthermore, even if you use it to cultivate 24 hours a day, it can still be usable for as long as 10 years. However, that Jade Fallen Ice Soul Pellet's medicinal force is too violent for you. It is definitely not something the current you can bear. Wait until you have broken into the divine way. After your divine energy has stabilized, then I will help you refine it. Yes, I'll keep that in mind, Xianxia respectfully replied. After exiting the 36th palace, bathed in fluttering snow, Mu Bingyun flew to the first palace with Mu Xiaolan. It was then that Mu Xiaolan finally could no longer endure it. Master, why are you so good to him? Why do you comply with everything he wants? Why are you personally going to help him obstruct those troublesome things attracted by the commotion in freezing snow hall? And just look at him, he actually just wants to stay there to cultivate and do nothing. He doesn't want to go anywhere, doesn't want to see anyone. In what way does he resemble a disciple? He simply seems to want to stay here and be nurtured until old age. Chapter 965 Voice that covered the world. He is still the person who saved my life, Mu Bingyun stated. But Master is repaying him too much, Mu Xiaolan said with an unconvinced voice. As a disciple, he is supposed to listen to Master's words and properly respect and attend to Master. But Mu Xiaolan's voice dropped as she muttered, "It seems like Master is attending to him." Mu Bingyun shook her head and said softly, "The reason why Xianxia has become an Ice Phoenix Palace disciple is so he can have the status to achieve his goal when the time comes. You also know that in 3 years, he will leave the Snow Song Realm and return to the Blue Pole Star. The reason why I look after him in this way isn't completely due to him having saved my life. It's also because he deserves or should I say that he deserves such treatment from our divine Ice Phoenix sect." Mu Xiaolan was shocked. "The flame poison I was infected with came from the ancient horned dragon's dragon breath. That poison is highly toxic, so toxic it even left the great realm king powerless. Yet Xianxia was able to cleanse it in a short month's time. Him being able to save my life this time means that if an important person in our sect is similarly infected with an incurable poison, he would also be able to cure it. Even if he no longer lives in the Snow Song Realm in the future, we could still head to his planet to seek his help. This explanation finally allowed Mu Xiaolan to understand why her master gave Xianxia so much preferential treatment. Oh, I understand now. If we think about it this way, he really is kind of powerful. Xianxia himself knows of this fact, so he has no qualms about accepting everything, Mu Bingyun stated softly. No qualms. Thinking about Xianxia's no qualms expression instantly made Mu Xiaolan feel that it was unacceptable as she muttered inaudibly. Xiaolan. Carrying a meaningful look, Mu Bingyun's eyes gazed at her. Xianxia's appearance, nature, and behavior are rather dangerous for girls, especially young, inexperienced girls. You will be in contact with him more often from now on, so you should be careful. The instant she heard Mu Bingyun talk about Xianxia's bad traits, Mu Xiaolan's mind immediately jolted. She quickly replied, HMPH? Even though he's kind of powerful in some aspects, he is still a shameless, lowly man. I will never forget that, so I will definitely be careful. Seeing that Mu Xiaolan had completely misunderstood her, Mu Bingyun did not explain any further. She smiled and said, Let's go. The huge Ice Phoenix Palace was incredibly quiet. It was as though it was an ice-cold world that was completely independent and isolated from the outside world. As Xianxia walked further in, he could almost clearly hear the sound of his own blood flowing through his veins. Xianxia casually selected a room. Its interior was quite spacious, but it was also especially simple and cold. Nothing particular aroused Xianxia's curiosity or interest. The bed was the same as frozen cloud Asgard, an icy crystal bed, and there wasn't even an ice silk blanket. After exiting the living room, Xianxia heading straight for the cultivation rooms ahead. All the cultivation rooms were closed shut. Xianxia walked to the front of the closest cultivation room and placed his hand on the stone door. The ice phoenix engraved jade on his shoulder immediately flashed, and the stone door also flashed with the same radiance for a moment before opening. Cold energy welcomed him head-on, and the interior was a field of white. When Xianxia walked in, the stone door automatically closed behind him. This cultivation room was first opened by Xianxia's ice phoenix engraved jade, and then was bound by the aura of his ice phoenix engraved jade. From now on, he was the only person who could open this cultivation room. If other ice phoenix disciples were not allowed in, they couldn't forcibly enter, of course. The only exception was the palace master. The interior was astonishingly a world of ice that was even colder than the outside world. The ice element was even more abundant here, and countless ice spirits and motes of light fluttered around. This, added with the continuously lingering icy mist, made it look like a world from a dream. What shocked Xianxia was that this world seemed boundless at first glance. He quickly released his spiritual perception, and only after it had spread through 150 kilometers did it reach the world's limit, which meant that this cultivation room was 150 kilometers wide. It was at this moment that Xianxia finally understood what Mu Bingyun had meant when she said that the space within was far larger than what he saw. These cultivation rooms clearly operated with high-level spatial laws, causing the inside space to be more than 100 times larger than what one may see outside. The ambience and aura inside were also completely different from the outside. It was a little world solely created for the purpose of cultivation. It was, after all, the God realm. Something as simple as a cultivation room was beyond the comprehension and imagination of the lower realms. The almost cruel, cold air and the excessively rich frost aura would give any profound practitioner a great amount of pressure, yet it made Xianxia feel extremely comfortable. He abandoned his plans of continuing his tour of the Ice Phoenix Palace and sat down, focusing his mind to go into meditation. He used the aura here to begin recovering his physical and profound strength. Xianxia's recovery abilities far surpassed an ordinary person's. He was able to recover his profound energy from a deficit or make a complete recovery after suffering severe injuries in the lower realms, where the energy of the heaven and earth was turbid and thin. In the God realm, where the energy of the heaven and earth was incomparably dense, his recovery rate would increase by several times. In only a few hundred breaths, the pain in his body completely disappeared. It was as though his entire body was soaking in warm water, and thousands of warm, trickling threads came pouring into his body from everywhere, nourishing his body and quickly restoring the profound energy he had overdrafted. While he was recovering his strength in a meditative state, a day had silently gone by without his notice. This was how Xianxia passed his first day in the realm of the gods, maintaining a Loki doctrine and carrying the little demon empress firm Absolutely cannot cause trouble command. Xianxia wreaked havoc in freezing Snow Hall on the very first day he arrived at the Snow Song realm. He crippled the main hall master's biological nephew with an elbow, and then crippled an official disciple who was supervising the examination in one strike. Not only had he escaped in one piece afterwards, he also had become an official disciple of Ice Phoenix Palace with a profound strength cultivation that hadn't reached the divine way, making history in the divine Ice Phoenix sect. As a result, it was without question that his name would spread through freezing Snow Hall, Ice Phoenix Palace, and even to Ice Phoenix Divine Hall. In other words, Xianxia, who had been muttering the word Loki to himself at least 800 times on the way there, had now become the topic of discussion for the entire Ice Phoenix realm on his very first day. In the cultivation room, Xianxia opened his eyes and exhaled deeply, his body feeling incomparably relaxed. In a short day, the side effects caused by forcibly opening, rumbling heaven were completely gone, and both his physical and profound strength had recovered to full. This shocked him for a long while. Compared to the aura here, the aura within the blue pole star truly could only be described as turbid as FCK. At this moment, he was even wondering how long it would take for him to once more adapt to the aura within the blue pole star. 30 months more to go, Xianxia said to himself. Jasmine, I have to see you again, even if it means an eternal parting. Just as Xianxia was about to get up, his chest felt smothered as his breathing completely stopped. All of the ice spirits and icy mist in the cultivation room had also stopped in place. A boundless suppression that wasn't too heavy yet was still as majestically vast as the firmament slowly capsizing enveloped him. What's this? Xianxia was incomparably shocked. He had a feeling that this suppression that had suddenly sunk down seemed to be enveloping this entire world, this entire space. After the lowering of this suppression, forget about breathing, Xianxia's body seemed to not even dare to move a single inch. Even his heartbeat had almost stopped. He felt as though he was suddenly in front of the boundless universe. Before it, he was so small that he could barely amount to dust. And what faced such a humongous suppression was not only Xianxia. Ice Phoenix Palace, Ice Phoenix Realm, Snow Song Realm. Perhaps the entire eastern divine region of the God Realm was enveloped within it. It was also at this time that a boundless, resonating voice that seemed to have come from a bygone era sounded within the boundless space. Inside all the star realms within the eastern divine region, beside the ears of every profound practitioner. Of the divine region's 40,000 realms, eastern divine region controls 9,000. The Profound God Convention is a distinguished meeting which occurs once every 3,000 years for our Eastern Divine Region. At the moment, due to a variety of reasons, even though only 700 years have passed since the last Profound God Convention, a new Profound God Convention is about to happen. Beneath this voice, the entire Eastern Divine Region seemed to have completely stilled as it sank into complete silence. Every profound practitioner raised their head high and looked into the sky. It was also at this time that Xianxia, who was still previously stunned, came to a realization. This was actually a sound transmission broadcast to the entire Eastern Divine Region. It was unknown how many times larger just one star realm was compared to the Blue Pole star. To cover the entire Eastern Divine Region, and even penetrate through his special cultivation room with a sound transmission, how terrifying of a power was that? How terrifying of a realm was that? The power levels in the God realm actually were able to reach such an unimaginable height. Was this really a power that man was capable of possessing? Xianxia had always possessed a deep yearning and reverence for power of the divine way. At this moment, it was the first time in his life that he felt fear toward power levels. In both his lives, he had confronted many enemies that were far stronger than him. He had defeated every single one of them and surpassed them all. But in front of this power before him, he distinctly felt what the word unreachable meant. This session of the Profound God Convention only had 10 years of preparation. Even though it is quite hurried, its importance surpasses all the former sessions. Moreover, this Profound God Convention will be held by the Brahma Monarch realm, the Eternal Heaven realm, the Moon God realm, and the Star God realm. To Xianxia, the greatest words touched upon in that sentence were the words, the Star God realm, because that was the realm Jasmine was from. However, this shocked the entire Eastern Divine Region. All the previous Profound God Conventions had always been conducted by the Eternal Heaven realm. This time, it was actually held by Brahma Monarch, Eternal Heaven, Moon God, and Star God, Eastern Divine Region's 4 Great King Realms. This was definitely unprecedented in all of Eastern Divine Region's history. Just based on that, this profound God convention was definitely unusual. The preliminary selections for the Profound God Convention will be held inside the world of the Eternal Heaven Pearl. In 30 months, the Profound God Convention will begin, which marks the start of the preliminaries. 3 months before it begins will be its registration period, and will also be when the Eternal Heaven Realm opens to the Eastern Divine Region. The various realms within the Eastern Divine Region were shocked once more. The eyes of numerous profound practitioners within the Divine Way, especially those who were still young, suddenly released rays of excitement and incredulity. The sky-encompassing voice had clearly stated that the preliminaries this time would actually be held within the Eternal Heaven Pearl. The Eternal Heaven Pearl was a one-of-a-kind, heavenly profound treasure in the God realm. Even in ancient times, it had been a transcendent existence. If they were able to participate in this profound God convention, even if they didn't place in the rankings, merely being able to enter the Eternal Heaven Pearl and mingling with the precious aura within the Eternal Heaven Pearl would give them incalculable benefits. Yet the excited aura within the Eastern Divine Region did not persist for long. What the voice said after that was like a bucket of cold water being poured over their heads. Even Xianxia did not expect it, and it instantly struck him hard. During the Profound God Convention, the divine power of the Eternal Heaven Pearl will envelop the entire Eternal Heaven realm. Due to the preparation time and the limits on the Eternal Heaven Pearl's divine power, the scope of this Profound God Convention will be different from all previous sessions. Only those below the age of 60 with divine strength, no weaker than the Divine Tribulation realm, are able to sign up for the preliminaries. The divine power of the Eternal Heaven Pearl is not one which any mortal body can bear. When the time comes, all those with profound strength lower than the Divine Tribulation realm will not be able to enter the Eternal Heaven realm in any way. Those inside will also be forcibly expelled.